morning, ladies and gentlemen, bureaus, members of the public. Thanks for joining us on this special agenda, special meeting of the LA City Board of Public Works for Tuesday, January 26, 2021. I hope everyone is doing well today. Dr. Campos, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Roll call and establishing quorum for today. We have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum at this time. For the record, all commissioners are dialing in remotely from home, and I am dialing in remotely from my City Hall office here at City Hall. We are also joined by our General Counsel, Mr. Ted Jordan, who is dialing in remotely from home. Mr. President, at this time, you do have one caller under general public comment. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. And we also have two callers on the line on item number 2. And one of them is the General Counsel, Ms. Gail Charles, for Mr. Alvin Moon.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. So why don't we go ahead and let's have our general public comment right now.
Great. We'll start with general public comment. Caller ending in 639. Caller ending in 639, Mr. Drexel Johnson. If you can please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone. The Board of Public Works is now accepting public comments on today's items. Caller ending in 639. Caller ending in 639. Can you please press *6 at this time to unmute your microphone? You'll be given 2 minutes to speak under general public comment.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I'm calling on behalf of several members of the National Black Contractors Association that's part of the LA City As Needed Haul Truck Program. And to just be real brief and to the point, brokering trucks and giving them a double standard in terms of pay and requirements is unfair to hourly contract truckers. And the program has been in existence for over 100 years now and has helped over 82 different businesses, small businesses, on an annual basis to make a good livable wage and do good in life. We want to keep this program in place and not subsidize it and call in brokers, because the broker aspect of it has been tainted, so to speak. I think we had some issues years ago. I met with you guys about a company by the name of Cyclean. We want to keep the program fair. We want to keep it equitable for everybody, and brokers are just not needed at this point in terms of all of the companies getting a fair shot. And on that note, I really hope you guys can take in consideration that small businesses really, really, really support the city, and we want to continue to support the city. But right now, we're being left out and not being paid on time. There are certain issues with respect to payment on time. The Prompt Pay Miller Act is totally in violation right now with the way they're not paying the truckers on time. And again, we just want you guys to take a little look and have a little bit more involvement in terms of oversight as the people that's the managerial levels, they're running the program and doing what they want to do without any oversight. And I thank you guys for taking my comments and my time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. President, that clears out the queue for public commentary.
Okay. All right, thank you. And nothing for the neighborhood councils, you said?
That's correct.
Okay, great. I mean, not great, but got it. All right, colleagues, let's start with item number 1, which is approval of the minutes for Friday, January 15th, 2021. Do I have a second to my motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. And thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections or questions or concerns, Commissioners Villegas or Caloza?
None for me, thank you.
All right, hearing no objections or concerns, the minutes from Friday, January 15th, 2021 are adopted forthwith. Let's skip item 2 for the moment and move on to item number 3. Item number 3 is a task order solicitation number 04 for KPFF Consulting Engineers, pre-qualified on-call consultants list, affordable housing and sustainable communities round 4 projects, recommending the board authorize the city engineer to issue the task order solicitation to KPFF Consulting Engineers from the pre-qualified on-call civil engineering services consultants list to provide project management, design, and design services during construction for the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Round 4 projects as stated in TOS number 4 with a budget authority of $2,110,385.62, including contingency. Steve Chen from the Bureau of Engineering is with us today to present. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, President Good. Good morning, everyone. Steve Chen with the Bureau of Engineering. And just quickly, I'll give you a bit a background on the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant, the AHSC program. This is a competitive state funding program which has a primary objective to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through increasing accessibility of affordable housing in conjunction with sustainable transportation improvements. The AHSC is administered by the Strategic Growth Council and is implemented by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as HCD. The implementation and construction of the AHC awarded projects is completed through a joint effort with affordable housing developers and the City of Los Angeles. The developers are responsible for completing the housing component of the AHC projects, and the city is responsible for the transportation-related components. There are 5 projects that have been awarded in the round 4 of the AHC grant program. They are the Hollywood Arts Collective, Jordan Downs S3, Manchester Urban Homes, Vermont and Manchester, and Weingart Tower Housing Developments. The housing component received a total grant amount of $50.7 million, which will add 824 units of affordable housing, and the transportation-related component of the 5 projects received a total grant amount of $25.56 million. Council districts numbers 8, 13, 14, and 15 are in support of the projects in their respective district. The scope of work for the transportation component includes construction of concrete curb, gutter, sidewalk, retaining walls, curb ramps, curb extension, crosswalks, and bicycle lanes, construction of pavement and median islands, storm drains and sanitary sewer facilities, utility coordination, street trees, landscaping, street lighting, and traffic signals. Right-of-way may also be required for some of these improvements. In order to meet the AHC grant program requirements, that construction will be completed by July of 2024. The design of these 5 projects must be completed by March of 2022. And due to this grant deadline requirement, along with the lack of available city staff, the Bureau of Engineering is seeking to utilize the services of a consulting engineering firm. The scope of work for this task order would consist of project management, design and design services during construction for the round 4 projects. And the required services include site investigation, topographic survey, underground utility survey, and design plans, specifications, and cost estimates. As far as the selection process, the city solicited proposals from all 26 firms on the pre-qualified on-call consulting list via the Business Assistance Virtual Network. And 7 firms responded to the task order. They were Alta Planning, Canon Services, David Evans and Associates, GHD Inc., KPFF Consulting Engineers, Michael Baker International, and Tetra Tech. Of those 7 firms, 4 were selected to be interviewed, and they were Alta, David Evans and Associates, GHD, and KPFF. Based on their proposal and interview, BOE recommended that KPFF was the most capable and qualified firm for performing all the necessary requested services of the task. Their initial cost proposal was $1.9 million, and subsequently we negotiated the amount for the services to $1,758,654.68. This task is subject to the Business Inclusion Program outreach requirements. The city has set anticipated participation levels of 18% minority-owned businesses, 4% women-owned, 25% small, 8% emerging, 3% and 3% disabled veterans-owned business enterprises. For this task, the consultant has pledged a participation level exceeding all the anticipated levels, with the exception of the emergency business enterprise, where they pledged 7.88%, versus the anticipated 8%, and the DVBE goal of 3%, where they did not pledge any participation. However, KPFF did perform outreach for the DVBE firm to meet the petition goal requirements. However, they were not able to obtain a sub-consultant for that scope of work that met the DVBE requirements. The total amount for the base task is $1,758,654.68, and it comes to with contingency, it comes to $2,110,385,000. $2,110,385.52. The funding for this project, the City Council has accepted the grants for the ABC Round 4 projects in the total amount of $25,560,000. These grants are provided on a reimbursable basis. However, front funds are not available at this time, but the California Department of Housing and Community Development has agreed to allow the city to submit draw requests with the approved unpaid consultant invoice for the performed services related to the project. Accounts have been established for each of these projects, and when reimbursements are received, they will be deposited into their respective accounts. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Steve. Colleagues, as a threshold matter, I would just point out that this will be subject to the mayor's cost containment process. That said, if approved, if we move this forward, Steve, I would certainly encourage BOE to reach out to the mayor's office, given the grant dynamic and the timeliness issue. So that's obviously going to be important. So, but before we get to that, let's hear from the commissioners. So, Vice President Garcia, you have any questions or comments? You're muted, Auda.
Oh, great. That was my whole little intro. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you, Steve, for your presentation. Just because I didn't really quite understand, have these housings already been developed? And
No, sorry. It's actually it's in conjunction. So we have to actually coordinate with the developer. It's different in every case, but yeah, we are coordinating with the housing development. But no, in most cases these are new projects, and the housing
okay,
it's not started yet.
Okay, well, they look amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
That's all for me. I don't have any more questions. You did a very thorough job on your report. Thank you.
Thanks, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Colosa.
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Chen, other than that, it's really amazing that the city was able to win these grant dollars from the state. It's a competitive process, as we heard, and, I'm really excited to see the construction and completion of these. It sounds like most of these will be done by 2024. Is that right, Mr. Chen?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's exciting to see the renderings of this. This is much needed housing that we have in our city, and just looking forward to seeing how this continues to develop. Thank you, Mr. Chen.
Yeah, agreed. The renderings are beautiful. Really cool. All right, President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, Mr. Chan, you had mentioned in terms of looking at the business inclusion that there were some areas where we had some minor shortfalls. Did they have a discussion with you about what some of the gaps were, and why, in fact, we were unable to get to the capacity that we really wanted to in those areas?
Yeah, I think it was just a combination of just the type of work that was involved. They did make an effort. I think the only one they really fell short was the DVBE requirement, which was 3%.
Right.
And they tried to reach out to eligible firm, but they just weren't able to find anyone that met the requirements of the task. And they did do their good faith outreach to do that.
Oh, so the company that they communicated with ended up not meeting the criteria
right.
that they wanted. Okay.
Right.
And obviously, we still go through Bavin to pursue those potential individuals, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And we just couldn't find anybody that was available.
That's correct. Yeah. For this
Okay.
for this task.
Okay, so obviously, whenever possible, I know it's not a perfect world, but in those opportunities that we have, and we oftentimes don't have a lot of them, we really want them to pursue it to the best of their ability. Certainly, no one doubts the great work that has already been done and that will be done, but every chance we get, given our economic climate, we want to make sure that we can maximize it. And I had hopes that through the database we have in Bavin, that we would have ample numbers of individuals that also come from the diverse areas that will be available for us to choose from. So I appreciate the great work that has been done in the planning, and just have hopes that we'll be able to provide the kind of resources that will allow them to be successful, particularly in the area of disadvantaged businesses in the future. So thank you so much for the report.
You're welcome.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Agreed very much. I will say it's notable. They surpassed the goals on everything but DVBE, right, Steve?
Correct. Yeah, and they actually surpassed a few of them by quite a significant amount. So I think, yeah, overall they did a very good effort in participation levels.
Okay, great. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thank you for the report, Mr. Chen, and it was really thorough. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. So, Steve, just as a reminder, so basic lay take is that is HSID's overseeing the housing?
It's the well, it's administered by the state, which is the California Department of Housing and Community Development. AHSC is just the name for the grant program. Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities is the grant program that they administer. Is that what your question was?
No. So who? I mean, the basic deal with these grants is BOE is overseeing the project management, and by virtue, with this contract on all the transportation, all the transportation amenities, all the landscape, all the stuff around the housing, and then the housing's being handled by.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the city agency is the Housing Community HCID. That's
Housing Community Investment Department.
There you go. Sorry. Yeah, Housing Community Investment Department. They are the ones who are administering this grant for the city. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, sorry.
And no, that's okay.
Yeah.
How many units? 824.
824 total. Yeah, I think of those, Weingartner is probably the largest one at over 200 units. Yeah.
Really, really exciting projects. All right, I'm clear. Thank you very much, Steve. Do I have a motion to approve as amended, subject to the mayor's cost containment process?
I'll move.
Thank you, Commissioner Closa. I got a second from President Pro Tem Davis. Any concerns or follow-up questions, Commissioners Villegas or Vice President Garcia?
And no questions from me. Thank you.
All right. Hearing that and hearing no objections, the item as amended is adopted forthwith. And Steve, again, I would strongly encourage y'all to reach out to the mayor's office on the timeliness issue, and I suspect Commissioner Caloza could work with you on that as well. Okay. Thank you, Steve. I know you're going to stick around. Let's go ahead and move to item 4 in the meantime. Thank you for your patience, Steve. Item number 4 is another task order solicitation, number 27K. T.Y. Lynn International 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project, recommending the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revision to the task order solicitation, or task order solicitation number 27K to T.Y. Lynn International, increasing the budget authority from $3,250,000 to $6 million for construction management and quality assurance services for the 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project. colleagues, this item would not be subject to the mayor's cost containment process because it does not expand the scope of an existing construction project. And so just bear that. Julie Allen is with us here to present. Good morning, Miss Allen.
Good morning. Julie Allen with the Bureau of Engineering. As you suggested, we are requesting authority to revise the task order solicitation to TY International to support the ongoing 6th Street Viaduct Replacement Project. And as it so happens, I will be giving a oral report on the status of the project later in this meeting. So I'll be happy to give a more detailed status update on the project at that time. For the purposes of this report, TY Lin has been augmenting the Bureau of Engineering Construction Management team since the inception of the project and construction, and they provide professional construction management support services, including a resident engineer that has expertise in major complex bridge construction, also a structures representative that's experienced with the review and analysis of false work and shoring and construction sequencing. And the team also provides support for scheduling, specifically with work on major complex bridges. They also provide environmental and biological monitoring for the many environmental permits that we have for this project. They also provide specialty concrete support, and this has been utilized when we've had issues with the concrete and challenges on the project. They provide expertise on repair and acceptance of the concrete. And they also provide a large component of their scope is quality assurance services, including source inspection at manufacturing facilities and batch plant inspections outside of the city limits. So they provide a wide variety of services for the project, and we request this task order revision to allow their services to be continued for the remainder of the construction project. For a little bit of background, in January of last year, the board approved this TOS, awarding TY Lin services in the amount of $3.25 million, and those services were to go through February of 2021, next month. And it was indicated in that board report that at the time we came to the board, we weren't sure of what the end date of the project would be. So we request services through 2021 of February and said that we would be coming back to the board and requesting the final extension of their services through the end of the job once we knew the date of construction completion. So at this time, the construction date has been confirmed to be July of 2022. And so we are here at the board requesting extension of these services through, actually through October of 22, because there are post-construction services that they will be supporting. So they'll be supporting construction through July and then post-construction through October of 2022. So this, as I mentioned, this task order revision was expected, and as part of the City Council approval of the global agreement last year, the funding for this task order was already provided, and it was known that we would be asking for this task order revision as part of that overall global agreement. So this particular contract has a DBE requirement, or Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, because it's part of the federal transportation program. And this contract has a participation level of 8%. For the revised task, the consultant is pledging a participation of 10.99%. And the overall task order also includes approximately 10% contingency, so that if any unforeseen issues arise and additional support is needed, we do have the contingency within this task order to implement that scope of work. So as I mentioned, the funding has already been budgeted in the project, and at this time we request authority to issue the revision to the task order to extend the services of TY Lin to the end of the construction project. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. One quick clarifying question before we open it up. Is the dog employed by you or a subcontractor to TY Lin?
I guess self-employed, actually. She's the boss.
That's great. That was funny. I don't know if you know what was going on behind you. But
no, I didn't.
It was very entertaining.
That's good. If it takes the attention off of me, that's even better.
No, no, no. All the attention's on you. This little project you've been working on for what probably feels like your entire life at this point.
It does.
So let's open it up. Vice President Garcia, any questions?
Thank you, President Good. Hi, Julie. I actually do not have any questions. Thank you so much for your time and for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, Julie, thank you so much for your report. And I have full knowledge of how challenging this project is in terms of really trying to come in on schedule and on time. It's easier said than done, and I understand that. As we look at where we are today with this project, I'm just curious, how have we done in terms of inclusion over time, would you say? Could you summarize for me your observation about what kind of impact this project has had in terms of business inclusion? Have we been able to achieve, as you reflect back upon what we have done, have we had a significant impact?
I believe so. I mean, you can imagine the sheer cost of this project and all the dollars that are being spent, and we have inclusion really at every level within the consultants that we bring on. They've been able to bring on a lot of small businesses and DBE firms to support the project, as well as the contractor. We have for a construction project, a very large percentage of a DBE goal, 23.95% overall. So that equates to about $60 million of small or disadvantaged minority business enterprises that are being contracted to support this overall project. And although the project labor agreement was not able to have a local hiring requirement because it's a federal FHWA project, the contractor does hire a lot of local labor as well. And in part of the presentation I'll be doing this afternoon, hopefully not afternoon, but later in this meeting, I'll be providing a status update on where the contractor has been in achieving their apprentice numbers and their female numbers to support the PLA that the project does have as part of the construction project. So overall, we've really made a large impact, I think, in being able to utilize these federal, state, and local funds towards diverse and small businesses. And I think it's been a great impact to the community.
Great. I'm glad to hear that, because obviously this is, if not the largest project, certainly one of the top 3 largest projects that we currently have in the city of Los Angeles. And I like the fact that we have secured funds from every source, quite frankly, to do this project. So to know what your observation has been in terms of the difference we have made, certainly that has been our vision. But our plan and our vision is one thing and reality is another thing. So I'm pleased to hear your observation thus far is that we have made some significant economic impact thus far. So I trust that we will continue to do that and support this item at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Villegas.
Hi, Julie. I have no questions either. Thank you for the report. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Ms. Allen as well. And just to echo what she mentioned about kind of the equity and diversity of this project, I couldn't agree more with everything she shared. Commissioner Davis, I think in addition to kind of the subcontracting component of it and the PLA, this project is also led by predominantly female engineers, Ms. Allen included, as well as the resident engineer on record from TY Lynn is also a female engineer, and she handles the most complicated technical issues, and she has been a huge asset to this project. So I just want to say that as well and appreciate the gender equity that this project has been advancing for the city. Thank you.
I feel like we should all say women build bridges, right? That's right. Thank you, Commissioner Closa. Yeah, thank you, Julie. Excellent report as always. just can't wait for July 2022.
You and me both.
I bet you can. And as Mike said, this is one where when we're all a little bit more mature in our lives, we'll be looking at postcards at LAX because we'll be flying again, and there'll be postcards of the 6th Street Viaduct right alongside the Hollywood sign and Griffith Observatory, and it's going to be something we can all be very proud of, and certainly you as well. So certainly you actually out front. So thank you very much. Do I have a motion to move this forward, folks?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Close. I'll take yours as a second. President Pro Tem Davis, any concerns or objections? Vice President Garcia and Commissioner Villegas.
None from me, thank you.
None from either.
All right, thanks. Hearing no objections, the item, this TOS's extension is approved and adopted forthwith. Thank you very much, Julie. We'll see you a little bit later in the meeting, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
And we will not have it go till the afternoon. On that note, let's jump forward because I know we've got a bunch of folks. I think we've got a bunch of folks from Metro. I certainly see Gary Baker's on the line. Let's go ahead and go to item number 11. My vocal cords need a little exercise, so get ready. Larry, thank you. Joking. All right, item number 11, colleagues. Street closure, Temple Street between Alameda Street and Turner Street, Metro Regional Connector Transit Corridor Project. We all know this very, to your point, Mike, slightly massive project also happening here. Item number 11 recommends the board find that the board has reviewed and considered the information in the Metro Regional Connector Transit Corridor Project Draft Environmental Impact Statement, Environmental Impact Report, EIS-EIR, and the project Final EIS-EIR. 2, find under the California Public Resources Code, Section 21166, and the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15162, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since certification of the EIS-EIR, there have been no changes with respect to the circumstances under which the temporary street closure being undertaken would require a subsequent EIR or supplemental EIR. 3, adopt the January 2012 Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, Chapter 8 of the final EIS-EIR, and Appendix 3 Memorandum of Agreement prepared by the Los Angeles County Metro as it pertains to construction impacts. 4, find under CEQA Guidelines Section 15091 that changes have been incorporated into the project which substantially lessen the significant environmental effects as identified in the final EIS-EIR. Further find that there is no feasible alternative or additional feasible mitigation measures within the board's powers that would substantially lessen any significant effect of the project would have on the environment. 5, adopt the attached CEQA findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations as it pertains to the temporary street closure and find that the economic, social, technological, and other benefits of the project outweigh its significant and unavoidable impacts. 6, specified that the Metro Transit Division of the Bureau of Engineering, located at 1149 South Broadway, the board, located at 200 North Spring Street, and other relevant City of Los Angeles departments are custodians of the documents or other material which constitute the record of the proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. 7, approve the request to temporarily close Temple Street between Alameda and Turner Street for 6 months, starting Friday, January 29th, that's this Friday, 2021 at 9 p.m. and ending Sunday, August 1st, 2021 at 9 p.m., subject to the conditions identified within this report. 8, approve the peak hour exemption request to allow construction work within the public right-of-way during weekday morning peak hours, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and weekday afternoon peak hours, 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., starting Monday, February 1st, 2021, and ending Friday, July 30, 2021 for Temple Street between Alameda and Turner Street, subject to the conditions identified within this report. And 9, authorize the city engineer and the director of the Bureau of Street Services to administratively approve an extension of up to an additional 14 days for the full closure and the associated peak hour exemption of Temple Street beginning Sunday, August 1, 2021 at 9 p.m. and ending Sunday, August 15, 2021 at 9 p.m. if unforeseen conditions are encountered which may delay the completion of this construction. With us today, Larry Hsu to give a presentation, and I see Gary. Good morning, Gary, and Olga Arroyo from Metro. Good morning, Olga, joining us as well. Thanks for being with us. Larry, you're on.
Thank you, President Good. I think my report's shorter than the recommendations. Good morning, I'm Larry Hsu from the Bureau of Engineering, Metro Transit Division. The Metro Regional Connector Project is a 1.9-mile underground light rail transit line that will extend from the Gold Line Little Tokyo Station to the 7th Street Metro Center Station. Metro is in the process of requesting a series of street closures as the Regional Connector Project completes underground work, backfills excavations, and restores streets. The Regional Connector Project is scheduled to reach revenue service in the fall of 2022. This request is to close Temple Street east of Alameda Street to Turner Street for 6 months starting Friday, January 29th, 2021 and ending Sunday, August 1st, 2021. The work planned during this closure is the construction of the underground guideway structure just east of and parallel to Alameda Street. Work performed during this closure includes the installation of shoring, excavation, construction of the guideway structure, relocation of utilities, backfilling, and restoration of the street. Major submittals associated with this closure have been approved by BOE. There are currently no unresolved notices of noncompliance issued by BCA for this project. While Temple Street will be closed to vehicular traffic, access to adjacent facilities will be maintained through alternate routes, including a temporary pedestrian bridge to maintain pedestrian access on Alameda Street and Temple Street. The worksite traffic control plan has been approved by DOT. As part of evaluating this request, staff from BOE's Environmental Management Division reviewed the environmental documentation from Metro and generated a memo attached to this report, which summarizes the impacts and mitigation measures associated with this closure. Council District 14 concurs with this request, and Metro has performed outreach for this closure and continues to hold monthly public meetings to provide updates on the project. That concludes my report. We have staff from BOE, LADOT, Metro, and RCC, the contractor, available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Let's start with President Pro Tem Davis.
I have none, no questions and inquiries at this time.
Thank you, sir. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. I do have a question. Will any businesses be impacted by this closure?
In the immediate area, we have the VA hospital and a DWP yard and Metro's yard for the construction. So that area doesn't have a lot of direct commercial impact. And east of there, we have city personnel and other facilities along Temple. But I don't see too many commercial zones over there.
Okay. Have we assessed that to make sure that we do not have any businesses that would be impacted? I'm more concerned for if there's any small restaurants that people can't go and pick up their food, things like that. That's what I'm thinking of more.
I think I will. Thank you. I'll defer to Metro if they know of any businesses that are impacted.
Well, thank you, Larry. This is Gary Baker. This is, I think probably the biggest impacts are really to the fire station, to the city personnel office, to our office, and LADWP. There's no small businesses in there that I'm aware of that will be impacted by this. Olga, they can add some context to that, but I think this one's pretty safe.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I just wanted to make sure if we did, obviously, to have a way for them to be able to still be able to function their business. But hearing none, that's perfect. Thank you. That is all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I have no questions. I'm familiar with the area, and I'm glad this is taking place. And a lot of work has been going on throughout that whole area. So thank you very much. No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. Thank you for your report, Mr. Shu, and nice to see you, Mr. Baker and Ms. Arroyo, Mrs. Arroyo. Sorry if you're a Mrs. or Miss. I'm just mumbling now. I noticed a part here on the report. I can't remember when you briefed me, Mr. Shu, but in this version that we have, it says here that the worksite traffic control plan was still pending approval at the time that this report was written. Can you give us an update on where we are with that and whether or not that's been approved by LADOT?
I think LADOT is on the line, but I believe it's been approved since the time when we drafted the report. DOT, if you are on the line, if you could confirm that.
Yes, Larry, this is Joellen. I confirm it has been approved.
Okay. Thank you for confirming that. The subsequent question I had is something that, of course, has happened in the last 24 hours that I don't think we anticipated or talked about when, Mr. Chu, you briefed me on this, but of course, as we heard yesterday, Governor Newsom has lifted stay-at-home orders, and LA County subsequently announced that outdoor dining would resume, which coincides with the date of your closure request. So can you guys just briefly describe how the traffic control plan, if whether or not we took into consideration any impacts of businesses where we might be driving traffic, just because these two are kind of colliding on the same day when we're going to begin this closure and directing traffic to new areas when outdoor dining will now resume?
I think I will ask Joellen if you can weigh in on traffic impacts of the changes.
Sure, Larry. Thank you, Commissioner. The traffic control plans we developed were based on the traffic volume that was studied by Metro when the patterns were not impacted by COVID. So the way we've developed the traffic control plans do not impact the businesses that continue to offer outdoor dining, including the alfresco setup that we have on First Street. So in this area, there are no restaurants or outdoor dining businesses, but the traffic control plans that detour the traffic to those areas do not impact the outdoor dining areas, and they continue to remain in place.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, and I know LADOT plays a critical role in our alfresco program. I was just concerned about, how we're going to coordinate these two timelines that are going to collide. I guess my last follow-up question is really for Metro and really more of a request, but I know you guys have already been doing a lot of outreach on this, and of course you guys are in communication with businesses in the Little Tokyo area, whether they're restaurants or just businesses in general. But if possible, if I could just make a request for you guys to do another communication or a subsequent follow-up to whatever you may have been doing, just because your closures will happen when they're allowed to reopen again. I think would be, really important due diligence on our part so that we're coordinating with everything that's subsequently happening, since I know a lot of businesses are hurting and are going to want to, take advantage of the lifting of these orders.
Yes. Olga, you care to respond to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Olga Arroyo, Metro Community Relations, overseeing the public engagement component for the project. That's a great suggestion, Commissioner Colosa. We'll definitely follow up. We actually are scheduled to meet again with the Little Tokyo Community Council this week, where we will be revisiting the start date of this closure. but we'll be following up with stakeholders throughout the duration of the closure, keeping them informed of the progress of work and alerting them to the completion of the closure and its reopening.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, because it is a 6-month closure, and I know there's authority in here as well to grant additional time that BOE can do if needed. So I appreciate you guys doing that additional outreach, and I just wanted to flag that for everybody. So thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thanks, Commissioner Closer. I think it's a great flag, and I would echo that. My guess is that the restaurateurs and folks on First Street would like detours to all be directed to First Street starting next week. But I would definitely. I know they've got that great setup, up and down First Street. So. And I know DOT, y'all been working really closely with them on that. I would just echo Commissioner Coloso's request, Gary and Olga and Joellen, which is work with the folks on First Street, work with the folks on the community. It seems like there's a way to make all this swim together. It is a substantial closure, just from a timeline perspective, but it obviously is merited and justified and necessary. So as much collaboration as possible is great. I'm really encouraged, Olga, by the fact that you've already got this, your regular meeting scheduled for next week. I'm sure they're going to have lots of questions for y'all. So please stay in tune with them. So with that, thank you for the very thorough and exhaustive overview. I appreciate it. I will motion to approve this street closure. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by President Pro Tem Davis. Any concerns or follow-up questions, Vice President Garcia, Commissioners Coloso and Villegas?
None for me. Thank you.
All right, hearing none, the item and street closure are approved forthwith. I also want to I really appreciate the forethought of, and Commissioner Coloso added this, of adding that sort of 2-week contingency on the end. It just seems smart, particularly given the scope of this. So thanks for that. So this is approved forthwith. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Joellen. Thank you, Larry. All right, colleagues, I want to take a quick 5-minute recess. I believe Ms. Charles is now on the line along with Mr. Moon. We will go to item number 2 at 11:10 a.m.
Okay, Mr. President, we have started the recording. Would you like me to establish quorum?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, reestablishing quorum. It is 11:13 a.m. We have President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, and Commissioners Caloza and Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. All right, colleagues and members of the public, we are going to go back to item number 2. Item number 2 is in CD 9 and 14. This is a task order solicitation number 115 for KPFF Consulting Engineers, pre-qualified on-call bridge civil engineering design services consultants list for the Central Avenue pedestrian improvements and Central Avenue streetscape projects. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the city engineer to issue task order solicitation to KPFF Consulting Engineers from the pre-qualified on-call bridge design services consultants list to provide design and engineering support services for the Central Avenue pedestrian improvements and Central Avenue streetscape projects as stated in task order solicitation number 115 with a budget authority of $523,741, including contingency, and 2, find transmittal 2, 3, and 5 to be unmerited as discussed in this report. Mr. Chen is with us again. As a note, if approved, this item would also be subject to the mayor's cost containment process, colleagues. And then I believe, as you likely know from the report, we have a protest here, and we have some callers to speak on the item. Dr. Campos, let's go ahead and do that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have Mr. Alvin Moon, and he's also joined by his attorney, Ms. Gail Charles, who are on the line. You'll see them as caller ending in 167. At this time, caller ending in 167, can you please unmute your microphone by pressing *6? And for the commissioners, both Mr. Moon and Ms. Charles are on the same line, so they are going to tag team it as they connect with your board.
Okay, so Mr. Moon and Ms. Charles, so you're both speaking?
My turn. Yes.
Okay, so real quick, so given that you, Mr. Moon, are a party of interest on this item, I'm not going to put a timeline on you per se. Our standard operational procedure is 2 minutes. I will just, out of respect to the board and all the folks with different items on this agenda, I will ask you to conclude if we reach a point where anything where we're getting redundant or saying the same things, but certainly want to be respectful of your time, again, given that you're a party of interest on this matter. So please go ahead and welcome.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to present our case to you this morning. At this time, I'm turned over to my attorney, Gail Solo. Attorney Solo, would you speak, please?
Good morning, Mr. President and Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of EW Moon. It is our position that our protest does have merit due to the violations of the Bureau's policies and procedures, which we believe jeopardize the integrity of the procurement process for Task Order 115. As you're aware, based on the board item, this project does contain some federal funds, and therefore the Department of Public Works must ensure that it does not violate any federal, state, and local procurement policies and procedures. It's my client's position that the evaluation committee process was tainted, and therefore the integrity of the process was compromised. For example, the members of the evaluation committee, which includes borough personnel that performed interviews of the 3 firms that responded to Task Order 115, may not have any preconceived opinions or any of any of the proposals, and also they may not have a conflict of interest that is either actual or perceived. EW Moon, prior to the Task Order 115 interview, contacted Stephen Chen, the principal civil engineer for the Bureau of Engineering, and voiced his concerns about Susan Hsu due to Mrs. Hsu's prior willful violation of the Bureau's policies and procedure. What happened was back in August of 2018, Ms. Susan Hsu, a representative of the Bureau, altered Mr. Moon's organizational chart and requested that he add a marketing firm to his proposal if he wished to be awarded the project. This was emailed to him. Because of these brazen procurement violations that occurred back in August of 2018, EW Moon, after being considered for Task Order 115, contacted Stephen Hsu and expressed his concerns about Susan Hsu, Mr. Stephen Chen, and expressed his concerns about Susan Hsu being on the interview panel. His concerns were not addressed, and she appeared on the panel. His interview was conducted on August 20, 2020, with by D. Abound and Susan Hsu. It is, we believe that Mr. Abound reports directly to Susan Hsu. Again, in summation for time matters, the federal government requires that grantees review license federal funds for any project, use their own procurement policies and procedures that reflect the applicable state and local law or regulations. These policies and procedures must be adhered to for procuring materials and our services using federal funds. It is Mr. Moon's position that Ms. Hsu's involvement on the interview panel constituted an organizational conflict of interest. She lacked the impartiality and impaired objectivity due to her prior complaint that was filed by my client against her in August of 2018. Therefore, because she had failed to adhere to the policies and procedures before. The evaluation committee's decision to allow her to participate on the interview panel biased and jeopardized the integrity of the process, and we believe violated federal, state, and local procurement policies. We respectfully request that you either award the contract to EW Moon or cancel this procurement, and also direct staff to reissue the procurement and take appropriate staff action to ensure that the integrity of all future solicitations comply with the Bureau's regulations and policies and procedures. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Charles. Thank you, Mr. Moon. I think, so I know Steve Chen is with us today. And is Ryan Tolles on for this conversation, or no? No, Ryan's on for the contract extension. So, Mr. Chen, why don't you go ahead and present, please?
Thank you, President Good. Again, I'm Steve Chen, Bureau of Engineering, and this task order. Let me just start off by saying it actually is. It combines two projects with two different funding sources, and these two projects are the Central Avenue pedestrian improvements, which is funded by Metro Call for Projects. It has a total budget of $2.5 million. And then there's a Central Avenue Streetscape project, which is funded by SAFE-DLU. This stands for Safe, Accountable, Flexible, Efficient Transportation Equity Act. And this has a total budget amount of $1.9 million. The project scope includes 2.5 miles of street improvements along Central Avenue between Washington Boulevard and Slauson. It includes new traffic signals, curb access ramps, striping, bump outs, pedestrian lighting, bus benches, and flashing beacons at crosswalks. The goal of this is to improve pedestrian safety and provide safe flow of traffic. The task order scope of work includes site investigation, topographic survey, pre-design report, design plans, specifications, cost estimates, and design support during construction. We are seeking the services of an on-call consultant since existing city staff is already fully occupied with existing projects and do not have the capacity to deliver this project within the required funding deadline, which is to complete design by July of 2021. The selection process, the TOS was issued to the entire list of 30 firms on their pre-qualified on-call list for federally funded projects. We had 3 firms that responded. They were KPFF, DACA, EW Moon, and EW Moon. The BOE staff evaluated the proposals and held interviews with each of the 3 firms. Based on this, KPF was recommended, the recommended firm for the task based on their proposal and interview. BOE recommends awarding the task to KPFF for a total amount of $523,741, and this includes contingency. We did receive communication regarding this task on August 26th, 2020. Gail Charles, an attorney that had been retained by EW Moon, sent an email to BOE indicating that their client intends to file a protest regarding the pending negotiation and award of TOS number 115. And then on August 31st, 2020, a letter was received from Gail Charles protesting the award of the TOS with the contention that the selection panel included Susan Shu, a senior civil engineer with the Bureau of Engineering, who did not afford a fair and impartial review of EW Moon's proposal based on her involvement in a previous task order from 2018. The letter also asked for the removal of Susan Shu from the selection panel. On September 15th, 2020, Fadi Aboud, a civil engineer with the Bureau of Engineering, responded via email notifying Gail Charles that we did review the evaluation procedures and the merits of the proposals and believe that the results of the selection process were consistent with the relative strengths and weaknesses of the proposals received, and that the inclusion of Susan Shu on the panel did not have any impact on the final order of the rankings. The email also indicated that the protest letter would be provided to your board and that EW Moon would have an opportunity to present their arguments. On September 24th, 2020, Gail Charles submitted a letter restating that EW Moon was not afforded a fair evaluation due to Susan Shu's involvement on the selection panel. Again, the staff believes that the results of the selection process are consistent with the relative strengths and weaknesses of the proposals received, and the inclusion of Susan Shu did not have an impact on the final order of the rankings, as the letter suggests, and recommends that the task be awarded to KPFF Consulting Engineers. The city attorney has been consulted on this matter and concurs with the staff's recommendation. This project is federally funded, and the city has set a DBE participation goal of 8%. And for this task, the consultant KPFF is pledging a DBE participation of 34.6%. The total amount for the funding for Central Avenue Pedestrian Improvements Project, which is the Metro Car portion, is $291,726. And the Central Avenue Streetscape portion, which is funded by Safe Avenue, has a total amount of $184,120, giving a total base amount of $476,120, and adding a 10% contingency gives a total amount of this task order of $523,741. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. Before we go into deliberation on this, Mr. Jordan, anything you would like to
add? Sorry about that. Couldn't unmute. No, I have discussed the matter extensively with the Bureau. I concur with the Bureau's recommendations. The entirety of the protesters' argument was just articulated. It's consistent with what they sent to the Bureau in writing, and it's consistent. And the Bureau reviewed the process. Evaluations are done by more than one person. There's no indication that the evaluation of this task order solicitation was anything other than on the merits. And the reality is, based on the merits, the protester came in third. I concur with the Bureau's recommendations. I see no problem with the process, nor do I see it in any way inconsistent with applicable guidelines.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you very much. All right, colleagues. Vice President Garcia, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you, President Good. Steve, can you tell us what was the process for the number 2 bidder?
The process for number 2?
Yeah, because I know that the EW Moons was number 3 bidder number 3. So what happened to number 2?
Oh, yeah. So, we did the selection process, and the rankings were KPFF, Dawkins, and then EW Moon. And the process is that we, once we have our selected firm, we will negotiate and meet with that firm to make sure that that we can come to an agreement on the final scope and cost of their proposal. Sometimes there needs to be some adjustments to what they've proposed, and so that process does take place. If for some reason we can't reach an agreement with the first number 1 consultant, we will then go to a second firm, and then we go through that process, and then so on down to the third proposal. So at this point, we were able to successfully come to agreement with the first proposal, first ranked consulting firm, and that was KPFF. So we didn't have to approach the second firm.
Okay, just to clarify, because KPFF met every criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Correct. Yeah.
That's it for me for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis.
Let's see here. What is the scope of this? Tell me a little bit about this project, Steve. What is the project again?
Basically, it's 2.5 miles of street improvements. It's along Central Avenue, between Washington Boulevard and Slauson. Again, it's just the goal here is to improve pedestrian safety and provide safer flow of traffic. We're adding traffic signals, curb access ramps, striping, bump outs, ped lighting, bus benches, and flashing beacons at crosswalks.
Now, I heard a reference to a project in August of 2018. What project are we talking about there?
That was I recall correctly, that was for a task order for an outreach support to apply for a different grant. It was a smaller task order to yeah, just provide outreach, primarily outreach services, and that grant writing assistance for a grant.
And what occurred in that process in terms of the complainant here as it relates to the August 2018 item?
So basically, I mean, this was a process that happened like 2018, so it's been a few years. But from my recollection, we had again a summer task order where we had different proposals, and EW Moon was one of the proposals that responded, and I think at that time we were, like I mentioned previously, we were only able to, of the proposals that we received, we were only able to come to agreement with EW Moon on their proposal, so we selected them for this task order, and I think that's really the high level of what occurred. I think subsequent to that, there are maybe some issues that are being alleged. We have met on several occasions regarding that, and
when you say that there are some issues being alleged, can you define those for me, please?
Well, basically, the perception that there's I'm trying to be clear because it's been some time. I want to make sure when I see anything.
Take your time.
Not a problem. So through that process, we need to come to agreement as to how to proceed with the task order, and we had there's multiple meetings that were taking place with this throughout this process, and through that process, meetings were held and agreements were made, and I think unfortunately the progress of that task order didn't proceed as positively as we had hoped. I think
so. There were some agreements then that were not made, is what you're telling me. Is that correct?
No, they were made. The agreements were made before we moved forward with the task order.
There were no agreements. There were no agreements that were not made. Did we ask them to agree to something that they refused our offer?
No, they agreed
to your knowledge.
No, we made some. We provided some information to them. They had agreed to the scope of work and the procedure moving forward. They had agreed to that at the beginning of the task order.
In terms of the makeup of the selection that the contractor had, did we make any recommendations to them for consideration of subcontractors?
I was not in any of those meetings. I can't say exactly what occurred. That's what I can't really speak on that exactly, but.
Well, I'm not asking you for a primary account, but I'm asking you, to your recollection, to your knowledge, had there been some discussion or complaints about an offer to have a certain firm considered, to your knowledge?
Yes.
I know that you're not giving me a personal account,
right,
and I'm not trying to suggest that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to better understand what's going on.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so there was a understanding that the prime contractor said that they were asked to consider a certain firm, correct?
That's my understanding.
Do you know about that firm, who that firm was?
I know who was eventually selected for that.
But I'm referring to the firm that I just discussed in my prior statement,
mm-hmm.
about this alleged firm that we have been talked about of suggesting to the prime contractor.
Was I aware of that firm?
No, I'm asking you. Yes, sir.
Not at the time.
Did they discuss with you the so-called firm that was being suggested? You're the person supervising this area, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So I'm asking you in that capacity, did anyone say to you or banter about a name of a firm that allegedly was being suggested to be considered?
I was not aware of it at that time.
That's not my question. My question is, did anyone mention to you a firm that was allegedly requested to be considered? I'm not asking you were you there.
Right. No, so after I became aware of it, yes.
Okay, that's my question.
Yes.
So you were aware that they are saying a certain firm was asked to be considered. Mm-hmm. And obviously the firm that was asked to be considered, was it accepted and agreed upon?
Yes.
So Moon agreed to support and include this firm in the project, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that firm did and was a part of it.
Correct.
Part of the project.
Yes.
Now, according to what I heard earlier, I was unclear if they had some problems with the inclusion of that firm. It appeared to me that the attorney was saying that they had some problem with the firm that they were asked to consider. But that's not your account.
My account is that initially that they did not have an issue, but that was my understanding initially. There was no issue with that firm.
Okay. Did you know that they had an issue with the communication and work with us on the August 2018 negotiations on this particular item? Were you aware prior to this situation that they had a problem?
I was not aware until, no, not prior. No, I wasn't aware for this.
Okay. At what point were you, at what point did you become aware that
sorry,
I'm sorry.
I became aware after we actually completed the rankings and we notified the three firms of the rankings, and that's when I became aware after they were made aware of the rankings.
The rankings during the time of the 2018 item, correct?
No, during the time of this current task order is when I became aware of their concern about this award. Is when they were notified of their ranking in the selection process, and that's when this issue from 2018.
So you're telling me that you were unaware that they had a problem with their prior communication with us on the item that they mentioned in their remarks. Is that right?
I'm trying to make sure I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out when you knew that there was a problem that they had on the 2018.
Oh, yeah, I knew. Sorry. I was aware after that task order back in 2018. Like I mentioned initially, there was an agreement as to what that team would consist of, including the sub-consultant.
Is it? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But subsequent to that is when there were with that task order is when I started becoming aware of issues with that task during that time of 2018 after we had started going forward with that task in 2018.
So you were aware that they had a problem in 2018 with their communication with us on that item?
Correct, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now realizing that when we put together the team for the current item that we're talking about, realizing that we knew that there had a problem, is it our practice to deal with that in any way in terms of if we had a problem, if they've had a problem on a prior item, as we look at the team that we put together, is it our practice to consider that?
Yes, and in fact, this going back to 2018, we did meet with BPW Moon subsequent to that task order, and we had, I think we had come to an understanding of that they would still be given other opportunities. That task order didn't turn out that well, unfortunately didn't turn out that well. But there are other opportunities. They're eligible for other opportunities, and this was just another opportunity that became available. So it was 3 years ago we went forward with this new task order, and yeah, that was just the process.
My question is our practice. Is our practice to continue to include someone with whom the prime contractor has had a problem in a past incident and the current, when we look at the evaluation of work, is it our practice, if in fact there has been some information that we have had that there's been a conflict with the person who's attempting to be evaluated, is it our practice, now that we've established that we knew that there had been a prior problem, is it our practice to have that person in an evaluation situation?
Well, I think
as we do our business?
Yeah, no, I think in this situation, my understanding was that there wasn't a problem with her at this point because we had met regards to that previous task order, and I thought we had come to the point of just moving forward, that we had agreed to that it wasn't a matter of it's more so I think the task itself as opposed to the individuals, and we had again discussed that with EW Moon and thought we could put that behind us in a sense where we were able to, I didn't think there was an issue of being objective on any future work that we would be having to assess.
So you had a conversation with EW Moon, and he confirmed with you that he didn't have a problem in the last communication we had on the last item, for which we had knowledge that there was a problem initially. He confirmed from you after that this was not a problem. Is that correct?
My understanding was that we were on good terms with the staff that was working with him.
Well, then would we have put that staff, in terms of our practice, is what I'm trying to search to better understand. Would we have, as a practice, put that person in an evaluation position, knowing that we had knowledge, as you have described to me, we had knowledge that there was some concern raised in a prior situation? Is it our practice to then include the person with whom the contractor in this case reported a problem of which we are aware? Is it our practice to then place that person on the next team given the past knowledge that we have? Is that our practice?
No, there wouldn't be a practice of if we know there was an issue, but typically no, I would say no if we knew there was an issue.
So that is not our practice.
No.
So why then did we not have any knowledge about, in this circumstance, that allegedly, according to the testimony I've heard a few minutes ago, is there any way in which we just did not know that this was the same situation and circumstance?
It was my understanding that it wouldn't be the same situation. If I knew that I felt that the interview panel was anyway unfair or biased, I would definitely not have moved forward with that.
Well, here's my, I don't want to cut you off.
Right.
But here's what I'm trying to zero in, Mr. Chen. We have acknowledged in our brief discussion that we had knowledge that there was a prior problem. So as we talk about if we had known, we've already acknowledged in this conversation that we did know. We've just acknowledged that on August 2018, there was a prior problem. We acknowledged that. So I'm accepting that as fact. Now, having said that, when we go forward in future time with this very same client or contractor or vendor, you've told me that it's not our practice to have that same circumstance repeat itself in a situation where an evaluation has to take place. So my question now is, how did it happen that this occurred? You see what I'm saying? How did it happen that a person with whom a prior problem, and this is not blaming fault on anyone, it's looking at organizationally our practice. That's all we're looking at here, our practice. And I'm asking questions because I don't have the answer. How is it that a person with whom we had a prior knowledge had a problem in a 2018 circumstance? Why would we, and how could they end up in a seat of evaluation with the same potential person for whom we had some concern being in this situation?
Well, like I said, I believe that we moved forward from that 2018 incident. I thought we had that the interview panel was able to, again, partially deal with the situation. It wasn't, it's just like when we have a disagreement on something, say, for example, we are able to move on. I didn't find it to be any issue for her or any of the interview panel to be part of that process. Also, I'd just like to mention we have a very limited staff that's available to do these evaluations, and the staff that we're interviewing or part of the selection process is the most knowledgeable with the project, and we'd be best suited to make an assessment of the the qualifications and capabilities of the.
So your answer to me is you just didn't think it was going to be a problem. Now here's the other issue. Here's the other issue. When we do different projects, for example, when we do federal project, are there set of...
Mike, if I can interrupt, if you are not a board member or Mr. Chen right now, can you please mute your phone? And then we should get rolling here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. The rules in terms of how we do different projects differ from project to project. Is there any problem that we have in putting teams together for these kind of funded project versus other funded projects? Mr. Chen?
Are there any problems putting teams together?
No, are there any circumstances that are different in these kind of funded projects that differ, for example, than state-funded projects or locally funded projects? Is there a problem with regard to how we put together panels for these kind of funded projects that you know of?
Not that I'm aware. We put the most knowledgeable staff that we can for those projects that are, again, best suited to making.
Is there any rules that preclude us from having people who sit on a evaluation committee that is perceived to have some preconceived ideas about the prime contractor? Is that mentioned in the language when we do business with this kind of a funded project? Do they say, okay, this is a federally funded project. When we do federally funded projects, do they say when we do it, when we put together the teams, that the people with whom we choose for these teams have to not have any prior opinion about the vendor, the contractor that we are evaluating? Is there anything in the language that we have to abide by as it relates to these kind of funded projects that you're aware of?
I'm not specifically aware of that language, but I'm sure that would be assumed requirement as part of the interview panel.
Okay, so if that is a requirement, that would be a concern for us, correct?
A concern meaning?
Whatever you think a concern means.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely, if it was a concern, then that we would not place anyone who could not objectively serve on a panel to serve in that role.
Was that one of the factors that we explored before making the panel for this particular item that's before us?
Yeah,
did we consider?
Yeah.
You did consider
that? I would
that?
say so, yeah.
So then you considered that in the 2018 incident, where in fact there was a problem, that there would potentially be a problem on this particular project.
Right. So just to also let you know, in the process of selecting an interview panel, we don't know who's going to respond to the task order either. We have 30 consultants that are on the list that we advertise to. So we established the interview panel based on priming the project itself and the knowledge of that project. And so we don't have any knowledge, again, of who's going to respond. We didn't know if EW Moon was going to respond to this opportunity. They did respond, and so we already had the panel established, and at this point, I did not think there was any issue with the panel being objective with that process.
We need to wrap this up, y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if a bell should have rung or not. Uh, what are some of the heuristics that could have prevented us from coming to this place and time on this issue as we seek a rational decision to work on behalf of the city around the business that we do and to embrace our best practices? I'm unclear about how this happened. Who is Mr. Abram? Mr. Abram was mentioned. I'm wrapping up, Mr. President. I know people are getting a little impatient here. Mr. Chan.
Yeah, Mr. Abram, I don't recall that name.
Okay, that
name Mr. Abood. Mr. Abood, is that who you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, he's also with the Bureau of Engineering, and he works in the street program under me.
And what role did he have in the process of evaluation here?
He was one of the evaluators on the panel.
And who does he work for directly? Who's his
at that time he worked for Susan Shu.
Okay. Huh. Well, I do have a concern, and I will come back to it. I have a concern.
Okay. We need to give other folks some opportunities here, President Davis. Commissioner Villegas, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, I was briefed on this item, and I appreciate Commissioner Davis's questions. I'm trying to find something tangible other than, the interviewee for the panel, if there was documented something that went wrong or something that isn't that can point to some what do you call it, like preference or some bias on this go around. Is that clear?
Are you asking that of Mr. Chen?
I am asking that of Mr. Chen, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's
sorry.
okay.
I didn't realize what the question was.
That's okay. I'm wondering if there's anything that is noted either on paper or on or something that we have that is reflecting some type of bias for this go around of interviewees for on the panel that she was on.
No, I mean, we have a very structured type of review process where we have a system of a set of questions for each of the different firms. We have different rating criteria. We rate them on the same type of criteria, the same questions based on professional competence, the project implementation experience, their approach to work, their management, their past performance on meeting budget and schedule. And so they're the kind of questions that we ask, the same type of rating criteria for all firms. And we have documentation of the comments from both the evaluators, which were consistent between both raters as well as between the different firms. So I would say, looking at the documentation, it appears to be, I didn't sense any type of pretty sharp impartiality.
Okay. And was there anything documented for the 2018? I don't know if that's necessarily, Mr. Jordan made like comment. I don't know if that is if my question and asking something like that is pertinent.
Well, so I can just
bias back in 2018.
So looking at the materials that they submitted, and it's hard to discern, it appears that what they're alleging is two things. One, that the Bureau staff in 2018 requested that they include a subconsultant. And as far as I can tell, they did include that subconsultant. I don't know anything more about the nature of that subconsultant, but it appears that the subconsultant may have been added. Another thing that they alleged in their initial protest communication, although they don't seem to be dwelling on it now, is that the Bureau staff, Susan Shu, altered their proposal And the document that I think they're referring to is EW Moon's proposal at that time for that TOS number 43, included an org chart. Proposers are required to submit an org chart so we can sort of see their team. Well, what they did was they took the Bureau of Engineering's org chart, left the Bureau of Engineering on the org chart, and then they inserted themselves, which is really not EW Moon's organization. It's sort of cobbling together the two. And so there's a notation that the Bureau of Engineering, if you imagine an org chart, squares, should be removed, which is, in my opinion, entirely appropriate. They clearly are indicating that they have some, I'm just going to say bias against Susan Shu, but there's no indication that Susan Shu has any bias towards them. And staff has said that the proposal here was evaluated on its merits. And that's the Bureau's course of action on all of their proposals, whether it's a federally funded, state funded, or locally funded. Moreover, it's entirely appropriate to have the project manager involved. And lastly, evaluations are done by more than one person. So no one person's own judgment is going to control. That's why we have more than one evaluator. And each evaluator conducts the evaluation pursuant to their own professional judgment. BRB staff can talk about that process, but there's no indication that there was bias on the part of one of the city's evaluators. Although clearly there's bias in the other direction. But our evaluation team, there's no indication that there was any bias.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. And going back also, we had documented, as public servants, we all take our jobs really seriously, and I feel for Susan being having her name out there like this. It's no one's. If we don't have anything of like proof, it's not. I just don't feel like it's fair. That is my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Calosa?
Thank you, President Good. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your presentation, and thank you to Mr. Moon and his attorney for joining us today as well, and of course to Dr. Davis for your additional questions. I agree with, the sentiments that Commissioner Villegas just echoed. We take these matters really seriously, and when there's protests or allegations about an unfair process, that, it's our job to really understand what the issue is and really make sure that everyone understands what happened. And, we look at the facts before us. And so I appreciate Mr. Chen for kind of outlining what happened, from when we received this initial protest. So maybe I can just kind of recap that again really quickly, if you can just briefly answer Mr. Chen. But so when you received this protest from Mr. Moon, did BOE investigate and look at this complaint and this protest?
Yes, we did. We did look into it, and we made sure that, again, our process was impartial. We made sure we had clear documentation about of everything that we did with reviewing the proposals and scoring, ranking the firms through the interview process. Reviewed their comments, so we did take a look at that.
And then upon your investigation, when you looked at your process and your evaluation procedure, which, having the privilege of getting to work with BOE really closely, I know you all have very strict protocols in general and a lot of guidance written out to staff about how you all do business and your expectations for how you evaluate these types of proposals. But during your time working with your team, I don't want to name any specific names, but just more broadly with BOE, is there a history here where we see that there's been like a pattern of behavior, anything like tangible worth flagging for us where there have been proposals or complaints by contractors where they feel like they haven't been given the proper or fair review?
I have not come across that before, and we also always offer debriefings if they so choose to go over, you know, just areas that we noticed and to discuss their strengths or weaknesses with their proposal. We're more than happy to discuss that with any firm that proposes with us.
Okay. So that's something that you would offer to Mr. Moon as well if he wanted to debrief about why his proposal was ranked the way it was.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful technical assistance. I know it can be really frustrating for contractors, you know, if they're not getting bids accepted or if they're not getting their tasks taken by the city, that it's good for them to kind of understand what are some of the things that, you know, are being looked at more specifically in their bid. That's really good technical assistance to provide. The other thing that I wanted to also just kind of quickly ask about, I don't want to reiterate too many things that have been said already, but the original issue that we heard take place in terms of having issue with BOE happened in 2018. And so from what it says here in this board report, it looks like the Bureau of Engineering actually, and subsequently the Board of Public Works, approved a pre-qualified on-call list of consultants for the bridge and civil engineering work that did include BPW Moon. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So 2018, this problem occurred. In 2019, they were actually approved to be on a list to be qualified to get more work from the city.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, that fact that, you know, there's what I'm seeing here, and I understand the frustrations of the issue that we're talking about, but there's opportunity here to get work. And they're on this list to be part of our process so that they can bid on work and continue to be part of this. You know, even being part of the pre-qualified on-call list in of itself, you know, gives consultants an advantage to be bid out certain work just to this list. And so I think that's the only last thing that I wanted to kind of flag and share that I thought was really helpful as I kind of looked at this, because there's a lot of complexities, a lot of, you know, work that we're trying to decipher that's like 2-3 years old now, that's kind of tricky to do, and just wanted to point that out, and also just my confidence as well in Mr. Chen, and of course the city attorney's help in my trust in them, and knowing that I know that they evaluated and took this claim really seriously, and they looked at our processes before coming to us with this recommendation to move forward with today's award. So I just wanted to conclude with that, and thank you, President Good.
And Mr. President, I have a question. Can I ask the vendor, the prime contractor, something, because I'm unclear about some of the answers I got to my questions.
Wait, are you talking about KPF or PFKK?
No, the complainant.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, either him or his representative. I wrote some notes from what they said, and I'm unclear about something that they said.
Yeah, and let's keep it let's keep this tight because we're already past noon. So yes, but go ahead, President Pro Tem Davis.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him or his representative in terms of this concern that you have with a staff member of the Board of Public Works. Did you express that you had a concern? And if so, when did you express that?
Elvin, at this time, can you please press *6 to unmute your microphone? There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, I expressed my concern right after after Susan Chu asked me to put that person on my project. And after the project was started and completed, Steve Chen and Susan Chu came to my office I again expressed my disbelief that they did that she did that. She apologized for
the disbelief that she did that. What does that mean?
that she was sorry she asked to put that person on the project. When she came to my office, she said, "I'm sorry."
No, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, she came. The two of them came to my office and met with me, and she apologized for doing it.
Well, I think you guys agreed upon it, and I just really, she made an offer that somebody you could consider, and you accepted the offer. But I wanted to know, when we were informed about your feelings, about you feeling that you would have loved to have had someone else, because allegedly, according to what I thought I heard you say when you first came before us on this item, that you had some concern about her being on the evaluation team. And I just wanted to know, when you informed us, because if we're not informed, then there's nothing we can do. So I just wanted to know, when did you inform us about your concern in that regard?
I informed Steve Chen about it.
When? When did you inform? I beg your pardon?
This is Gail Johnson. Statement, please, because we submitted emails from EW Moon, and it was an email that he received from Mr. Abal. When they asked him, when he was notified that he would be interviewed for task order 115, and he replied back asking him who was going to be on the panel. And Mr. Baum replied on August 17, 2020, that Susan Shu and himself would be conducting the interviews and making the final determination. At that time, Mr. Moon contacted Mr. Chen and expressed his concerns. This was after August 17, 2020, his concerns about Susan Chen being on the panel.
Okay, so ma'am, that was prior to this item, prior to your dealing with the department on this item. Is that correct?
Well, it was prior to the interview, because he wanted to know who was going to be conducting any interview, and he wanted to ensure that Susan Chu was not on the panel.
I see. Okay. Thank you for that. And then I have a point of clarification for our attorney, Mr. Jordan. You mentioned that oftentimes the issue about the client, well, we didn't have a problem with the client had a problem with us. There is no perception on our behalf. However, if we are made aware that a prime contractor has a problem going into a situation where they are to be evaluated, Mr. Chen has said earlier that it would have been our practice not to include such a situation. Certainly, I know that we can do what we want to do, but has that been our practice in terms of...
I don't believe that accurately characterizes what Mr. Chen said.
Okay.
I think if a contractor has a problem with the city, as they do from time to time,
right,
that doesn't mean that, all the staff that were involved in some prior project where the contractor had a problem with the city, it doesn't mean that they're all now precluded from being on an evaluation team.
Even if they notify us? Even if they notify us?
Yeah. The city gets to choose who's on the evaluation panel. And on evaluated proposals compared to bids, where it's just a low price, in fact, the contractor's prior performance on city projects is an evaluation factor that the city tells them in advance we will take into account. I don't have any reason to think that was an issue here, but I believe what Mr. Chen was referring to, and he's here, he can correct me if I'm wrong, that if, for whatever reason, the Bureau has reason to believe that one of its own staff members has a problem with a contractor and is going to be unable to...
My question was, Ted, my question was the reverse. My question was the reverse.
And I don't believe that accurately...
Before you answer my question, let me say this.
Okay.
You established for me in your earlier remarks that we don't have a problem with him. I'm clear about that. What I'm unclear about... Right, and I'm clear about that. What I'm unclear about, and my question is the reverse. when they have a problem with a certain person, and this is no reflection because, you know, I don't blame anybody. We're all human beings. So I don't have to think about my philosophy here. I'm just simply asking a question. When the vendor or the contractor, and this happens, this is not only in this case, it happens all the time. So when a contractor expresses to us that they have a problem with, now this is what they said, I wasn't there. I'm only going on what I'm hearing. When they express to us that they have a problem, I mean, when we talk about implicit bias and all of that stuff, I'm not blaming any person. I'm just asking a procedural question here. When they inform us that they have had a concern, then do we then try to create an environment where we don't have that concern to potentially be a punching bag? Because that's exactly what has occurred.
Yeah, you'd have to ask the Bureau.
Yeah. And that's what my question was, because you know what I'm saying? It's a heuristic that will stop us from getting to what we're trying to achieve and making a rational decision when we've been informed in advance. If we didn't know, we didn't know. But if they informed us in advance, then we knew. And I just wanted to know what our practice was on that level. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Chen, please answer this, and then we're going to move forward.
Okay, all right. I just have to comment. I don't distinctly remember the events occurring in that order. I mean, I suppose it's possible that that occurred that way, but I don't recall being notified prior to the interviews that there was concern with Susan. But if that did occur, obviously it's not obviously we wouldn't want to hear that. But I have to look at the exact records of when that actually occurred. I don't think that my election occurred that way. But like I mentioned before, we do when we set the panel, when you determine the panel, it's established months before the actual selection process actually occurs. When we send out the task order, we do list the individuals that will be the program that will be responsible for reviewing or responsible for this task order. So it wasn't kept a secret prior to that. So it's I mean, that's something that's typically, this is the first time it's ever happened, in fact, so I can't say that there's a typical response to this because it's never happened in the past where we've gotten a complaint about a concern about an evaluator. But again, I don't remember the events occurring in that order. So, but again, if I did, I think that's probably that we may have been hindered just by not being able to substitute someone else with that knowledge of the task order.
May I ask the question?
Yeah.
May I ask the question, please?
No, sir. No, sir. Mr. Moon, please hold. No, I'd like Mr. Chen to finish, and then I will take this. And if you're not part of the board, if you're not Mr. Chen, please mute your microphone.
Yeah. So no, that's just my statement on that is that yeah. So if that was the case, we established the panel long before we knew who responded to the task. And so, again, it's who we had available at the time that had the knowledge of the task order that would be the best ones suited to make evaluation of the different proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. So I'm going to go ahead and interject here, and I'm going to just put on the table. First of all, thank you, President Pro Tem Davis, for the line of questioning. Thank you, Bureau of Engineering, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Moon and Ms. Charles, for coming and participating in this conversation. It has been, and look, this is a tricky situation potentially. Although I would just posit this. It has been said just very seconds ago that this happens all the time. You have contractors who are unhappy with whatever reason with not getting selected. That's fair. It's called disappointment, right? And it is fair, and that happens. I would flip what was discussed and say it would be inherently problematic, particularly given that this happens all the time, if the city or any bureau within the city were to adopt a position of, in essence, allowing a proposer, bidder, contractor to define or determine who is part of the selection process. A, it's certainly a slippery slope. B, anybody can make a claim of a problem with anybody anytime. And I would posit to my colleagues that we cannot be in a position of allowing a vendor or a contractor to essentially determine who is making the choices about bids and proposals. That is utterly counter to the process that that they are and we are engaged in. And so, and then talking about process, I think that it's very important to even putting all that aside, the idea that the Bureau of Engineering, having issued a TOS solicitation to 30 people who have actually been selected to, as Commissioner Caloza pointed out, selected to participate in a process, clearly not biased against, to presuppose that any one of those 30 people might perceive a bias against them. So any one of those 30 people could have said, even in narrowing it down to the 3, any number of those 30 could say, hey, I have a problem with person X, I have a problem with person Y, and we don't have a process then. We got nothing. And so the process is the key here. That selection panel of professionals whom work very hard and put a lot into this work, and who, by the way, are expert, that's why they're on that, and by the way, are a panel. So no single person is making that decision. That's selected well before this process. And the fact that they even got to an interview process undermines the idea that they were actually biased against. And so I again, I respect and understand and appreciate the disappointment of the protest here, but I see, frankly, zero evidence other than just a claim, zero evidence out of a ton of correspondence of any sort of bias. And so I think it's very important for the sanctity of this process to recognize that we can't have vendors telling us who's going to interview them, simply put. That doesn't work procedurally. So I'm prepared to motion to move this.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
You're absolutely right. And yet, at the same time, this is very difficult work. It has always been difficult work historically. And there comes a time in terms of the cycle of what we are trying to do that we get a better understanding of everything. Certainly, we don't blame any one person for being human. We are all human. When we look at the processes, we want to also ensure that the process is free from any one person, both staff as well as those who come before us for evaluation, that they're in the best environment in which to be judged. No, we don't want a prime contractor to dictate to us who's on the committee, but yet, if we know in advance that there's a potential problem or concern, because it's only one person being judged at that given time. Not all of the contractors, but that one at that given time. And if we have noticed, then we certainly want to accommodate. This whole work of diversity and inclusion is not easy. And looking at inclusion is not easy. And looking at equity is even more difficult. And so how and when do we begin to look at things in terms of if the glass is half full or is the glass half empty? There are always different perspectives for which sometimes we don't see. You can go outside of one side of the house and see one thing, and you can go on the other side of the house and see something different. So this is not an attack on anyone. as far as I see it. I'm just really wanting to know that we embrace the practices that can prevent us from confronting these heuristics that stop us from making a rational decision. And sometimes we have to look out of different windows in the house to see it. So I just say, I certainly understand your perspective, and I certainly understand what our goal is and where we're trying to get. I wasn't there. I'm not proposing to have been there. I don't know, but I do know that there are many perspectives to what we're trying to achieve. And I believe, and my point is, we do want every vendor to have an evaluation environment where it can be, if we know in advance, it can be one in which they are evaluated in a way that we can make sure that there is, without reproach to the best of our ability, a fair and just environment. And I'm not saying this was unjust. I'm just simply saying there's another perspective that needs to be on the table. And so I agree with you. Nobody runs the government but the government. And I'm an 100%, 1,000% advocate of that. And yet I know it's very difficult when you get into diversity and inclusion. If we were back in the 50s, the arguments in the 50s would have been certain things. But when we confronted the 60s, it was other things. And so there comes a time that we put everything on the table. And I support, certainly, we do outstanding work, and I don't have any problem with that. I don't know Moon's firm in terms of what they do than a man in the moon. So I'm just saying.
Very much understood and very much appreciated, President Pro Tem Davis. Very much so, and you're absolutely right. We need to look at all angles and look at all perspectives, and I respect and appreciate that, and you are a consistent champion for that, and I very much appreciate that. I'm personally satisfied that, among other things, the fact that that the protesters' firm was actually a finalist and invited to interview runs counter to any sort of suggestion of bias.
Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so.
I'm personally satisfied that undercuts a claim of bias, and I respect your. I mean, you certainly. I respect your position, President Pro Tem Davis. I do. So with that, I think we have exhausted the conversation, and I'm prepared for a vote. Do I have a motion to move this forward?
Motion.
Okay, Commissioner Closa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Villegas. We'll call this as a vote. President Pro Tem Davis?
No.
Okay. Vice President Garcia?
No objections from me.
Okay. President Pro Tem Davis, I'm sorry. Was that a no objections or no vote?
No vote.
Okay.
I'm not voting on this one.
So abstaining or?
I'm out. I'm abstaining. I'm out of this one.
Okay. Ted Jordan, we got you. I got you here. What you got?
Having difficulty unmuting. So commissioners are not allowed to abstain. You vote yes, you vote no. Those are the only two options. Right now, the motion is to approve the report as is. And so that calls for a yes vote to approve the item or a no vote to vote against approval of the item. Those are the only two options. If you choose not to vote at all, your vote will be recorded in the minutes as a yes vote.
Okay. President Pro Tem Davis?
Well, I just don't have enough information. I'm sorry.
So you're comfortable with that registering as a yes vote? I mean, I'm just
not. I would love to just be where I'm at on it.
I can repeat what the options are. You vote yes, you vote no, or if you state you're not voting, the reality is your vote will be recorded as a yes.
Well, I mean, I hate to be forced to vote something that I didn't say and where I'm not at. I really am not in it, you know what I'm saying? because you never answered my questions to my satisfaction. So I don't know if that should be a no or what, but yeah.
I'll roll call everyone else and then
come back to me.
Vice President Garcia?
I don't have any issues with moving forward with this item, but I guess I need more understanding because I also was under understanding that there are times that we can choose not to vote. So maybe I missed that from the very beginning.
That has never been the case. And while we're talking here, I will endeavor to find the city code section that clearly states that.
Okay. Commissioner Villegas, or you seconded Commissioner Colosa's motion. Vice President Garcia, do you have a vote?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with this specific item. No objections on my side.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am a yes. President Pro Tem Davis?
Leave me off of it.
Just leave
me off of it right now.
Okay.
Because I'm not happy that my questions weren't totally answered, but I don't have enough information. So I would love to have some more information to get to a real resolute thing that I really want to get to. But since I don't have that, I can't take the action that I want to take at this point. So it is what it is. Okay, so I'm no action whatsoever. However you all count it, that's how you count it. But that's where I'm at.
Okay, we'll take that as a no, and the count is that is a four yeses and one no's.
So for the record, it's the Administrative Code Section 21.19. And in the event such member fails to affirmatively vote either yes or no, that member will have deemed to have voted yes, and the member's vote will be on the record. So that's the particular code section that applies here.
And Mr. President, Fernando Campos here, just to be very clear on the record, President Pro Tem Davis has declared no action or quasi an abstention. So that would be recorded as no action. So therefore, the administrative code that Mr. Jordan has read into the record would kick in as a yes vote. I want to be very clear. You indicated that it was a no vote, and that is not what Dr. Davis has indicated. He has indicated no action.
Okay.
Or no action on his part.
So, Mike, I'm not pushing you. I just want to be, out of respect to you, I want to be very clear on what you want to register on the record. Is it no or no action, which will record as yes?
It is no action because that's where I'm at, because I wanted more deliberation on this issue. So, while the motion has put forward, I don't wholeheartedly and gladly go with a yes on this one. So I have no action on it. Okay. So that's where I'm at.
Duly noted. Dr. Campos, you have the count?
Yes, we will record it as 4 yeses, 4 yays, President Good, Vice President Garcia, Commissioner Villegas, and Colosa, and we will record no action by President Pro Tem Davis. Mr. President, that motion does carry. Also for clarification, and I hate to do this to you, this matter is subject to the mayor's approval due to cost containment. So therefore, if Commissioner Colosa and Villegas is okay to approve this as amended to include that condition, we will enter that into the record as well.
Yeah, and this is Ted. I'm sorry to beat this horse to death, but I will read this section again. In the event that such member fails to affirmatively vote either yes or no, which is the case here, that member will be deemed to have voted yes, and the member's vote will be spread as such upon the record. So Dr. Campos can reflect on the record that the commissioner failed to affirmatively vote yes or no, but the official vote record here will be 5-0 because that member will be deemed to have voted yes. So the record can state that he didn't utter the word yes, but it will reflect that that's what the vote was. I hate to beat this thing to death, and it's not going to change the outcome one way or another, but I think we have to adhere to the administrative code as it concerns commissioner voting.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I can definitely go ahead and reflect that for the record. If you can just give me that administrative code one more time,
21.19.
And I believe
Great.
President Pro Tem Davis is clear on that.
I think so.
We will make it very clear on the record as well.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Campos. Thank you, Mr. Moon and Ms. Charles. The item is adopted as amended forthwith.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Colleagues, let's move to item number, that takes us to item number 5. I believe Ryan Tolles is here. Item number 5 is a contract acceptance, Albion Riverside Park, Albion Project. Recommending the board accept this contract. Brett, Mr. McReynolds, are you here for this?
Yes, I am, President Good. Thank you very much. I have quite a few of these to do, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. This particular item is for the acceptance of the Albion Riverside Park. The contract was awarded by your board on March 23rd, 2017 to Sully Miller in the amount of $16,625,000 with an authorized budget, including a contingency, for a total of $18,287,500. The project expanded the existing Downey Rec Center located in Albion Street in CD1. Project comprised of 2 main elements, water quality and then an element of putting in a park above the water quality elements, including soccer fields and playgrounds, etc. 79 change orders were issued, increasing the total cost of the project to $21,759,669. That is 39.89% above the award amount, however, 2.2% below its authorized budget. Changes were made mainly pertaining to soil contamination and water quality elements, as well as lighting and street fields, lighting of the streets and fields. It should be noted on December 18th, 2017, May 2015, and March 18th, 2019, your board discussed these changes and issued and increased contingencies for the project. All work, including final corrections, have been completed in August 19th, 2019, and there are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds. Funding was provided by Prop O, K, and Recon Park grants. The contractor complied with all EEO and labor compliant requirements, including a project labor agreement throughout the project. It's worth noting this project was a recipient of several awards, including the Envision Gold and ISI Award, and also the ASCE Award to Bureau of Engineering. And it really is a wonderful park project we're requesting acceptance on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. It's a great project. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Any objections, President Pro Tem Davis or Commissioner Closa?
None for me.
All right. Hearing no objections, the contract acceptance is approved and adopted forthwith. Thank you, Brett. Let's move to item 6. This is another contract acceptance, Laurel Canyon Boulevard Bridge widening over to Hunga Wash, bridge number 53C-1233, federal project number BHLS-5006, parenthetical 195, and parenthetical recommending the board accept this contract.
Thank you again, President Good, commissioners, and colleagues. This is Brett with Contract Administration. Laurel Canyon Bridge widening over Tahunga Wash was awarded by your board on July 6, 2015 to CPO Enterprises. It was awarded in an amount of $2,275,135 with a contingency amount total of $2,502,648.50. On July 27, 2016, June 23rd, 2017, and September 14, 2018, the board approved contingency increases, bringing the amount to a total revised authorized budget of $3,017,648.50. The project provided widening of the Laurel Canyon Bridge by 19 feet on each side with a total width of 100 feet to match the existing street. The project was done in CD7 in the Sun Valley area. 30 change orders were issued on this project, increasing the contract amount by $742,106.47, bringing the total cost of the contract in to $3,017,241.47. Several unforeseen conditions, including vaults, electrical vaults, and an increase in the shoring plan were necessary for these change orders, or brought about the change orders. Final corrections were completed on March 28, 2018, and there were delays in closing this project due to our OCC division waiting for responses from the contractor. CPO Enterprises, this is a smaller contractor, and there was a lot of back and forth that went on for a period of time to get the adequate documentation. It was through Federal Highway Bridge
I'm
Program.
still in board meeting. Can you tell?
Yes.
Excuse the noise. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Funding was through Federal Highway Bridge Program, Construction Fund Unit, and also Prop G Seismic Fund. BCA Office of Contract Compliance has found the contractor met all EEO requirements and labor compliance requirements for the project. There are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds. We're asking for acceptance on this one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. Any questions, colleagues? Vice President Garcia?
No questions from me. Thank you.
All right. President Pro Tem Davis?
Not for me either.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Colosa?
None, thank you.
Commissioner Villegas?
None for me, thank you.
All right. I'll motion to move this item forward. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. And any objections, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Villegas, or Vice President Garcia?
None for me.
None for me.
All right, hearing no objections, this contract acceptance is adopted forthwith. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Brett. Next up, contract acceptance, Council District Number 4, Riverside Drive Bridge Program, or Bridge Home. Recommending the board accept this contract. Please proceed, Brett.
Thank you again. This is one of two bridge homes that I'm here for acceptance on. Riverside Drive Bridge Home Project was awarded to 4DC on February 14, 2020, using the established board-approved municipal contractors pre-qualified list. The award was in the amount of $4,341,208.50, with an authorized budget including contingency of $4,992,389.50. The project provided design and construction of a 100-bed temporary homeless facility and hygiene trailers located near Griffith Park in Council District 4. 26 change orders were issued on the project, totaling $3,547, increasing the total cost of the project to $4,344,755. That was 0.08% above the original estimate, however, 12.97% below the not to exceed authorized budget. Final corrections were completed July 13, 2020. Funding was through the Fund 154 and Unit 718 of General. BCA Office of Contract Compliance has found the contractor has met all of the EEO and labor compliance requirements. There are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds, so we're asking for acceptance on this one as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Any questions, colleagues?
Not for me.
All right. Do I have a motion to move this one forward?
I'll move.
All right. I'll take Commissioner Colosa's motion, seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Any questions or concerns, President Pro Tem Davis or Vice President Garcia?
None for me.
None for me either.
All right. Hearing no objections, this contract acceptance is adopted forthwith. Brett, don't you go anywhere. This one's in CD6. Item number 8, contract acceptance, Council District 6, Etna Street, a Bridge Home Project, recommending the board accept this contract. Go ahead, Brett.
Yes, thank you again. This one's for Etna Street Bridge Home Project. It was also awarded to 4DC about the same time as the previous one, February 20th, 2020, using the established board-approved and authorized municipal pre-qualified contractors list. Project was awarded in the amount of $2,953,000 with a total contingency amount of, or total with contingency of $3,248,300. The project provided design and construction of also a 100-bed temporary homeless facility with hygiene trailer located in the Van Nuys neighborhood of Council District 6. 30 change orders were issued, totaling $72,738.69, increasing the total cost of this project to $3,025,738.69. This was 2.46 above the original estimate, however, 6.85% below the not to exceed authorized budget amount. Final corrections were completed on July 20th, 2020. Funding was through, again, the Fund 100 Operation Unit 715, and also BCA's Office of Contract Compliance found that the contractor met all EEO and labor compliance requirements. There are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds in this one. We're asking for acceptance as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Any questions or comments, colleagues? I'm just kind of watching you shake your head yes, if so. All right. Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to move this one forward?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second? Seconded from President Pro Tem Davis. Any questions or concerns, Vice President Garcia or Commissioner Colosa?
None from me.
All right. Hearing no objections, this contract acceptance is adopted forthwith. Moving on to item 9, contract acceptance, Penmar Water Quality Improvement Project Phase 2, recommending the board accept this contract. Mr. McReynolds.
Thank you again. Last but not least, Penmar Water Quality Improvement Project in CD 11. Contract was awarded by your board April 25th, 2016 to Green Building Corporation in the amount of $3,037,000 with a total authorized budget, including contingency, total amount of $3,341,000. The project constructed a new treatment building, pump, and piping to treat water collected by an existing 2.7 million gallon underground tank located in the Penmar Park. 23 change orders were issued, increasing the total cost of the project to $3,163,884.29, which is 4.18% above its original award and 5.30 below its budget. Changes were made in piping systems. Funding was provided by Fund 16T, Department 50. The contractor has complied with all EEO and labor compliance requirements. All work, including final corrections, was completed in August 1st, 2018, and there are no unresolved property complaints or disputed funds. We're asking for acceptance on this one as well.
Thank you, Mr. McReynolds. Any questions, colleagues? All right. Sorry, Commissioner Villegas?
No questions.
Okay.
I'll move it though. It's a good project.
Do I have a second? Thank you.
I'll second.
Got a second from Vice President Garcia. Any questions or comments or concerns, President Pro Tem Davis or Commissioner Colosa?
No questions for me.
Okay.
On this item.
All right. So hearing no objections or questions, this contract acceptance is also adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Mr. McReynolds.
Thank you.
All of those. Appreciate it. All right, colleagues, that brings us to item number 10. Item number 10 is a sole source procurement of equipment, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Dilute Polymer System Improvement Project, Capital Improvement Project 2376, recommending the board authorize the director and general manager of LA Sanitation and Environment to request the city engineer to sole source the procurement of the following equipment for an amount not to exceed $1,344,000, including contingency for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Dilute Polymer System Improvement Project, Capital Improvement Project 2376. 7 Prominent Fluid Controls, Inc., ProMix Polymer Activation and Feed Systems. 1 Prominent Fluid Controls, Inc., 3 Pump Skid Control Panel, including 3 integrated Rockwell Automation Allen Bradley Variable Frequency Drives, and 2, authorize the city engineer to negotiate a price agreement with Prominent Fluid Controls, Inc. for the above referenced polymer activation and feed systems, and 3 Pump Skid Control Panel, which will be procured and installed by the general contractor awarded the construction project. Ethan Wong has been waiting quite patiently. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Please describe what we've got in front of us in Flintstone terms, please.
Sure, no problem. Good afternoon. This is Ethan Wong with the Bureau of Engineering, Environmental Engineering Division. So the report before you is requesting sole source procurement on a polymer injection system that we will use in the wastewater treatment process at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. So the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant provides preliminary, primary, and secondary treatment to all the wastewater that comes through the plant. In this process, solids are removed from the wastewater in both the primary and secondary treatment, and they're processed through primary sludge centrifuges and waste-activated sludge centrifuges so that water can be removed from those solids and thickened. The thickened primary sludge and waste-activated sludge are then pumped to undergo biological processing in our anaerobic digesters. And this makes the solids or the sludge a stable substance by destroying pathogens. The digested sludge is then processed through the centrifuges where the water is further removed and transported to approved land application. So this polymer system would be injecting polymer in both the primary sludge centrifuge, the waste-activated sludge centrifuge, as well as the digested sludge pipeline that goes to the dewatering centrifuges. What the polymer does, it helps the sludge bind together and also eliminates water within the solids. So this basically makes the sludge weigh less. So as it's trucked, this reduces hauling. So the existing polymer system is roughly 25 years old. So we are upgrading it with this project. In 2017, there was a pilot study done on different polymer injection units and blending units. So in this testing, the prominent fluid controls unit performed the best and was chosen as the candidate to be used to replace both the existing unit as well as the new injection system. Basically, the cost will be roughly $1.3 million. Obviously, this is a specialized process, and these units are somewhat expensive. So if there's any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Hey, colleagues. Vice President Garcia, any questions?
Thank you, President Good. Ethan, given our financial constraints this year, if we do not move forward with this, what would happen to our system?
Well, as I mentioned, the system is rather aged. The plant is currently, still maintaining it. So this project ultimately would both enhance and basically make the process more efficient. At the time being, if nothing was done, that it wouldn't change the current process, but this would be an improvement.
Okay.
And this would be, Vice President Garcia, and I failed to mention on the front end, this would be subject to the cost containment process.
Right. I think I remember. Yes. That's it for me, Ethan. I think I believe I was briefed on this because I remember, but not by you, Ethan. So, anyway, that's all for me.
Yeah. Can I add something, President Good?
Please.
This action doesn't award a contract at this moment. This would just be approval we're just resting approval for sole sourcing.
And then the contract would come to us once you
at a future date. Yeah, we are still in the design phase.
Thank you very much. That's obviously quite relevant point. So, and to your point, Vice President Garcia. Thanks, Ethan, very much.
Thank you, Ethan and President Good. That's all for me.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Davis?
I'm fine. Good report, Ethan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Colosa?
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Wong. I think he did a great job summarizing this report and kind of the sole source justification. I also really appreciated hearing about the pilot study and just the potential cost savings in terms of the hauling costs if we're able to reduce the weight of this sludge that we're hauling. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. And then Commissioner Villegas?
I'm good. I don't have any questions either. Thank you, Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. All right. I don't have any either. This complicated, obviously critical work. So appreciate you bringing this to us, and I know we'll be, to your point of clarification, be entertaining this sometime in the future. So thank you, Ethan. Do I have a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
All right, I'll take President Pro Tem Davis as the motion to move forward, seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Any questions or concerns? Vice President Garcia or Commissioner Colosa?
None for me.
All right, nope, good, okay. Hearing no objections or concerns, this item is adopted forthwith. Thank you very much, Ethan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that brings us to, covered item 11, that brings us to item number 12. Item number 12 is an authority for expenditure, Department of Toxic Substances Control. The Bureau of Engineering and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $162,288. New adjusted amount of $211,913.01 for payment of state agencies' oversight fees of the Taylor Yard G2 parcel E1908260 for blanket authority during fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. Who's here with us on this item, Dr. Campos?
Mr. President, we have Mr. Chris Johnson from the Bureau reporting on item number 12, and item number 12 will be subject to the mayor's approval for cost containment.
Chris Johnson competing with Ted Jordan on the beard front, so I couldn't pass that up, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm good, President Good. I'm Chris Johnson. I'm with the Bureau of Engineering Clean Water Division. This authority for expenditure concerns Taylor Yard G2 parcel in Council District 1, and it allows the city to reimburse the Department of Toxic Substances Control for services they perform under a California Land Reuse and Revitalization Agreement for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. And those services include a review of our contamination data we collect on the 42-acre site, a review of our response or remedial action plans that we develop, and public outreach that includes attendance at public hearings and distribution of work notices and community updates. This increase is funded by Municipal Improvements Corporation Los Angeles funds, or MICLA funds, that were reauthorized by City Council for this purpose and project back in November. With that, I could take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Questions, colleagues? President Pro Tem Davis.
Could you tell me what the time period of the project is?
The overall time period for Taylor Yard G2 is currently we're out to 2028 or 21.
Okay. I was like, wow, this is a huge project.
28. Yeah. The Bureau's currently in the process of developing a feasibility report for use of the whole site, but in the meantime, we're developing some portions for specific projects. The first one being one called Paseo del Rio, which allows public access along the river's edge. With each project, DTSC has to review the remediation plans and such and provide oversight for us.
Now, what will the total funding of the project be with this one?
That is complicated. We have a combination of various grants as well as funds received from the MRCA, Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, for sale of an easement on the property. Future projects include a Proposition O project that is pending council approval, and further improvements on the site are to be determined.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. Chris, a question. Can you clarify or explain to me what this blanket authority means?
Yes, we typically we don't have like a fixed agreement. We pay DTSC kind of on a reimbursement basis, so they'll invoice us for their charges to these reviews and this public outreach. They provide us an estimate of those fees, and we therefore seek, in order to be able to be timely in payment of those reimbursements, we request that authority, and we term it a blanket authority. I believe we just received, as I speak, our first invoice for the year from DTSC, and normally they have a 60-day requirement for payment, or else we start accruing interest.
I see. And you're only doing it up until June 30th of this year, right?
Yes, and we're proceeding with requesting estimates for the following year, and we'll be back to board for further funding for their work. It's going to be ongoing year to year.
Okay, so just for my clarification purposes, the reason you need this blanket authority is so that you'll be able to pay any invoices that come within this next 6 months, right?
Correct. If we waited until we received the invoice to initiate the approval process, we'd probably be late on the payment.
And that would accrue interest on our part. Got it. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. And so, Chris, so this basically, it pays, DTSC charges us, given that we know that there are toxic chemicals under Taylor Yard, or on Taylor Yard, based on what it was. DTSC, by, I guess, Government Resources Code, has to oversee all of our outreach and all of our sort of just work to ameliorate or mitigate those impacts. And this is us paying them for all of their costs.
Yes, and further, they're required to do independently their own outreach as well.
Oh, that's right. You said that. Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Villegas? Uh-oh. Looks like we lost Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Colosa, and we'll see if Commissioner Villegas' connection happens.
Okay. Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Johnson. I just have a question for Dr. Campos or Mr. Jordan, just a point of clarification. So since these are fees that were mandated to pay to the Department of Toxic Substances Control, our regulator for G2, is this still subject to cost containment since these are mandated fees?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Colosa. These are still subject to cost containment review. However, this would fall under one of the three exceptions that the mayor has outlined in his cost containment memo, one of them being any items related to public safety and health, the second, revenue generation, and the third, for legally mandated expenses. So this would fall under exception number 3. So we would ask for an expedited review for under cost containment.
Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying, Dr. Campos. That was the only question I had, President Good. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your report. I understand what's before us today. I just have a question in terms of the information that we're going to be getting from DTSC that's of value to the public. I don't want Mr. Jordan to like ding me on this. Sorry, Mr. Jordan. But for just my educational purpose, and I will be quick on this, how are we communicating any kind of results that we receive to the public?
We do our own outreach in the form of e-blasts, and we regularly attend neighborhood council meetings. DTSC, I don't know, you were off, also does their own outreach independently with the neighborhood councils, and they do their own notices and things. They also maintain a site called EnviroStore, where they publish all of the relevant documents and as well as their reviews.
Thank you. I'm sure you know this part of Northeast Los Angeles is close to 50% Latino, so I'm hoping that your outreach is also done in Spanish.
Yes, that's the intent. In fact, for the next project moving forward, the outreach will actually be contracted by MRCA, and they have a substantial grant for supporting them in that.
Thank you. My intent here was just to be able to provide those clear results to the public in a manner which they'll be able to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. And that's a really great observation and key point. All right. My colleagues asked all the questions that I have. Mr. Johnson, do we have a motion to move this item forward?
So moved.
And again, by the way, this is and subject to the mayor's cost containment process. So amended as subject to the mayor's cost containment process. Still your motion, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Objections, questions, epiphanies, Commissioners Villegas or Colosa?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Hearing none, the item is adopted forthwith or the item as amended is adopted forthwith, subject to the mayor's cost containment process. But again, Chris, we will work to expedite this, given that it's a legal obligation and it falls within one of those categories. All right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. So with that, that brings us to item number 13. Item number 13 is our specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Headworks Fire Sprinkler System Replacement, CIP 2466. This is obviously in CD 11. This is work order number SZH11864. Estimated cost of the project is $2,488,000. Need lots of fire sprinklers at Hyperion. And the bid receipt date will be March 9th, 2021. Do I have a motion, colleagues, to solicit bids on this project? Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any concerns or objections, Vice President Garcia or President Pro Tem Davis?
No questions for me.
None for me.
Thank you all. Hearing no questions or concerns, we will the invitation for bids on this project is adopted forthwith. Thank you all. That brings us to item 14, also a specification for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. This project is in CD 1 and 14. It's the Arroyo Seco Low Flow Diversion Project, AS-15, AS-121, and Via Marisol Street Reconstruction Project, work orders number SZS 11690, SZS 11691, E1908114. Estimated cost of the projects is $6,546,427. And the bid receipt date on these projects again would be March 9, 2021. Do I have a motion to open this project up for bidding?
I'll move.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Concerns or questions, Vice President Garcia or Commissioner or President Pro Tem Davis?
No inquiry for me.
None from either.
All right. Hearing no questions or concerns, this item this item is open for bid. Adopted forthwith is open for opening up the bidding. Thanks. All right. With that, Julie, I promised you it wouldn't be the afternoon, and I have failed you on that. But welcome back. I hope you had a little time with your friend over there, your dog, and welcome back to the board. Our item here, number 15, folks, is an oral report on the 6th Street Viaduct. So, Julie, without further ado, the stage is yours.
Thank you, President Good. Again, this is Julie Allen with the Bureau of Engineering, and I do have a presentation to share, so I will go ahead and bring that up on the screen. Just to confirm, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So again, I present quarterly to the Board of Public Works an update on the project. So I'm happy to be here today to give you an update about what has happened during the last quarter. So I always like to start with a bit of an overview of a schematic of where we are. So the viaduct package itself is about 65% complete in construction. And everything you see in green represents work that has been completed. So we've now completed all of the foundations, and within the last quarter, you can see that now this deck has been poured all the way from the eastern terminus, which is at the 101 freeway, all the way over to Bent 8. And if weather permits this weekend, it was actually supposed to be poured last weekend and the rain hit, we're going to be pouring the deck all the way to the LA River. So hope for a little break in the rain for about 20 hours this weekend, and we'll be able to get that deck placed as well. Everything you see in yellow in this diagram represents work that is under construction, and anything in black means they have not started construction on that item yet. So the next photo I want to show is just kind of a really cool photo, but it actually was to highlight the fact that work on this project runs into the evening hours, it's over the weekends, it includes a lot of effort by the project team, including our outstanding BCA inspectors that are there watching all this work happening. To be able to complete this project on schedule, we have 2 shifts that occur every day, as well as night work and weekends whenever closures are needed for either the 101 freeway or the railroad track. So all of that is ongoing, and the team is committed to continuing this to be able to complete the project on schedule. The next photo represents the fact that during this last quarter, significant progress has been made on the easternmost arches, the 6 of them that you see there. And the false work, which I'll point out, all these vertical elements are generally false work elements that are supporting the bridge until it's constructed. And what you can see now is that the false work for these arches has been completed, including the section over the 101 freeway, which runs right through the middle of the photo. In addition to the false work, the formwork for the arches has now been placed, and the formwork is generally represented by these smooth, flat wood panels that the concrete is poured against, and then once the concrete hardens, the forms are released. What you see in this photo now is the iron workers placing the concrete reinforcement, which is the steel cages that you see here. And just to note, you can see inside the rebar cage where we have 2 iron workers inside, and they need to be in there to assist in placement of the cage and connecting the 2 elements together is their place. So it's, again, very large, and you can't really tell from this photo, but it's very steep when you're walking up. It's challenging. It's a lot of you put out a lot of exertion to get up there, and it's at a slope. So all these people are tied off so that they can't fall if they lose their footing.
Scary looking.
Yeah, it is. But you get a really great view while you're up there. So the next photo is representing the fact that we did place a lot of concrete during this last quarter. As I mentioned, we placed the bridge deck over spans 8 and 9. That happened on November 16th. And the other concrete elements that we placed during this quarter were arch span 7 edge girders and floor beams, the arch span 6 edge girders and floor beams, and also the last Y-arm elements across the bridge, which are the bent 4 arch rib floor beams, and those are on the west side of the river. And what you see in this photo is 2 concrete boom pumps. So the concrete trucks are on the ground, but the boom pumps bring the concrete up onto the bridge deck. And the yellow equipment that you see here is the bid well that controls the final grade of the deck. And then there's a machine behind it that cuts in the tines or the grooves into the finished deck surface. And this photo shows what the deck looked like after it was poured and cured. And this photo shows work that has been performed during the quarter in the false work over the LA River. So what you can see in this photo is previously we had this lower level foundation up to the lower deck, and they had poured this structural frame, the Y-arm and the arch rib floor beam. Now this next level of false work and formwork is being placed that will allow the edge girders, floor beams, and deck to extend all the way from the east portion at the 101 freeway, and it'll be able to expand all the way over the LA River. And the last photo I wanted to show is just a nice photo of the arches with the backdrop of the 101 freeway and Boyle Heights and the little bit of snow we got at the time. There's probably more now, but when this photo was taken, it had a nice background. So I wanted to include it as well. So now into the project metrics, I will start with the schedule. Before I get into the details, I did want to mention that during this last quarter, especially in December, the project had a significant increase in the number of COVID cases. We had been pretty lucky overall and just had 1 or 2 here and there. During December, at one point, we had 10% of the people on the project either testing positive or quarantined due to exposure to someone on the project or in their personal life. So fortunately, all the cases have now been resolved, and a lot of those people that were out, at least not the craft workers, but the engineers and office people, were able to work from home during the time that they were quarantined. So
how many, I'm sorry, Julie, could you repeat how many people were impacted?
We had about 10% at one point of all of the people on the project that had either tested positive or were quarantined due to exposure, including city staff and engineers from the contractor as well as their craft workers. But fortunately, the contractor was able to shift their people around in the field, and we have not seen an impact to the project schedule as a result of the COVID cases that were encountered. And we're down to, as of last week, there was just 1 person that was still quarantined due to a positive case. So fortunately, we've made a recovery, and the contractor continues to employ the best practices that are necessary to avoid transmission and exposure for people on the site. So getting into the details of the schedule, the most recent schedule submitted, which was last week, represents progress through the end of December of 2020, and it does demonstrate continued compliance with the milestone dates, which are completing the bridge so that it can be open to traffic by June 20th, 2022, and milestone 2, which is completing the bridge on July 30th of 2022. I will note, though, that several activities that were planned to be performed in January have been delayed, so the contractor will have to mitigate those delays to ensure that the project remains on schedule for the next monthly update. The next metric is the budget and expenditure. So this spreadsheet represents the overall project budget of $588 million, and that includes $428 million in federal highway bridge program funds, as well as Prop 1B state matching funds. And to date, the city has expended about $396 million, and it's on track with what has been expected to date. For change order status, the total change orders executed to date are 68 million, and it's a percentage of about 25%. Since the last quarter, we've only executed $5,250 worth of change orders. So as I mentioned last time, there was a big increase that I reported last time due to the execution of the supplemental agreement change order that was approved by this board to settle the outstanding claims. But since that occurred, the change order amount has been very low. The next slide I want to go over is the project labor agreement hiring goals, and this is actually information that is provided by the Bureau of Contract Administration, and it represents the contractor's achievement of the goals within the PLA. So for apprentice utilization, the contractor has achieved 25%. For female utilization, the contractor has achieved 5%. And for disadvantaged utilization of their craft, they have achieved 11%, whereas the goal is 5%. So they're significantly exceeding their disadvantaged utilization. So the last slide I want to provide is one that I had included in my last quarterly update, and it generally represents the actions that we can expect to bring to the board for the completion of the project. And I have now updated this sheet with the dates that have had board action. So the top one was the task order revision for HNTB, and that was approved by the board December 18th. The task order revision for TY Lin, which actually was considered and approved by the board today. And I've added 2 dates in blue of tentative dates that these items are expected to be considered by the board, which is next Tuesday. And that includes the increased authority for the railroad construction and maintenance agreements through the end of the project, as well as the task order solicitation to complete the design of the park, arts, and river connectivity project. So just as a reminder, I generally give updates on the viaduct project itself, but we do have a associated project that our division is overseeing to design and construct a 12-acre park underneath the viaduct once the viaduct is complete, and that'll provide a lot of amenities, recreational and performance space for the community. As a brief update on that project, we are in the middle of having park public meetings, and what we're doing is providing updates to the community on where we are with the design and the schedule, as well as soliciting input from them on any of the items that are still allowed to have some refinement in the design. So we're having 6 meetings in total, and the 3rd meeting of the 6 is actually tonight at 6 p.m. So that concludes my presentation for this afternoon, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And I will stop sharing unless anyone has comments about the slides themselves.
Well, thank you very much, Julie. Appreciate that. The pictures and slides are fantastic. I have one quick question. The money for the park project, is that part of the 588?
No, it is not. Including the park and the other, we actually have other active transportation projects that we're managing. The total for those is about $46 million, and it's not included as part of the overall $588 million viaduct project budget.
And is that funded through sort of a smattering of, I know there's some,
yes, it is. It includes grant funding, city funding, active transportation program funding in those particular projects, yes.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Colleagues, any questions or comments for Ms. Allen? Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Julie, once again, congratulations and thank you for all the work you're doing and your all the time and extra time that you're putting into this monster project that you have on your hands. But you're doing such a great job given all the challenges. Um, Pictures were amazing. I love all these pictures of downtown, and you guys have really come a long way. I don't have any concrete questions. My only question is always, and I'm sure you probably said it. Um, our projected final date has not moved, right? We're still scheduled to finish the entire project, and I believe it's 2023. Please confirm.
2022.
2022,
Summer
yay.
of 2022. Yeah, and I will mention that the contract does allow for rain extensions up to 15 days. So um, the contract does include some rain in the actual schedule. Anything up to 15 days beyond that is allowed, and then the contractor would have to absorb any rain beyond that. So
Understood.
it's still summer of 2022.
Okay, and I guess I do have another question. The fact that you have now 2 shifts, is that new or is that something that you had done from the very beginning?
We've always had the inclusion of double shifts for this project, just to the amount of hours that the project needed. It had to be performed in both double shift and Saturday work to be able to meet the schedule.
Exactly. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you very much, and we support you on your this tremendous work that you're doing, Julie. So congratulations on all of this, and we hope that by 2023, I can't wait to see what you do after this. By the way.
Vacation maybe, but yes.
Vacation. No, I'm waiting to see what other project you're gonna get, because any other project you're gonna get is gonna be like potatoes. Nothing.
You just gotta jump on the next $600 million iconic infrastructure project in our city.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, build a highway in the sky. I don't know, something like that. All right, thank you, Julie, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis? You're muted, Mike. Mike, you're muted. You're muted, Mike.
Fernando, can you unmute him?
No, I can't unmute him. I did ask for him to be unmuted, but Dr. Davis, you can try just pressing the space bar and see if that would work temporarily. Nope, doesn't seem to work.
Keep trying. I'll check in with the commissioners and see if we can work something out, figure something out here. Commissioner Villegas?
I don't have any questions either. I really appreciate Julie's report. Excellent work as always, and thank you. I appreciate the heads up of the other items that will be before the board in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was excellent. Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Ms. Allen. I think we all have a very fond appreciation for her reports on the 6th Street Viaduct and know that a tremendous amount of work goes into putting these reports together, in addition to the daily, of course, project management that you do of this very large project that we have in the city. Also want to thank BCA for their report on our PLA numbers. 5% female utilization is significant for this project, considering that it's traditionally much lower industry-wide. I think it's like 3%. So it's really good to see these numbers, and just really nice to see all the progress, especially if you're driving over the freeway. You can see all the false work up and the arches, and you're starting to feel really excited about our changing skyline in the city. So thank you, Ms. Allen, for your contributions and for your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Hey, thank you, Commissioner Closa. Hey, look at you.
Yes, there's something wrong with the other computer. I have no questions, believe it or not, on this item. And thank you for a great report. I just couldn't say it.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you, though. I had a feeling, although by the way, the disadvantaged business numbers that were shown. That was
Yes.
impressive, Julie. All right, Julie, I don't either. Thank you. Excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. And just echoing what we talked about earlier, just I think we're all very excited about this. I do encourage any of my colleagues, not at the risk of slowing down work, but whoever hasn't been on a tour of the project, you should avail yourselves. It's the scope is just kind of staggering. So well worth it. All right, thank you, Julie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
I haven't done one.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I thought. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Be
please.
sometime this year.
Absolutely.
Oh, tour. Okay, I thought I'd left you out. I apologize.
No, a tour.
Got it.
I'll reach out to your assistant and schedule something. That'd be great.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You'll love it, Teresa. It's awesome, actually. Okay. Thank you, Julie. Have a great day. Really appreciate it. Sorry to keep you so long. All right. Final item of the day, colleagues. This is a sewers 5-6 update from the Bureau of Engineering. I believe Ryan Tullis is with us today. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioner Good and commissioners. Can you hear me okay and see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I apologize coming after Julie's presentation. I don't have a lot of nice photos to show you, just pure metrics here for our sewers program. The first one will be quick. It's the Sewers 5. This is a semi-annual summary up to December 31st of 2020. Sorry, do you still see it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. The contract expiration date is December 31st of 2020. So it just recently expired. We're no longer issuing any construction orders on this contract. The total amount that was issued on the contract was $25.5 million. The contract ceiling was $26 million, and the overall percentage expended on the contract was 98%. Sewers 5 overall completed a total of 938 projects under the contract. So that's a quick summary of where we're at with Sewers 5. The Bureau of Contract Administration is currently in the process of closing out the contract. So you should see an acceptance report to close out this contract soon, and that will report some of the participation levels and numbers and those sorts of things. Do you see my second slide now? It should say Sewer 6 at the top. Okay, thank you. So this is for the current contract that we have active. This is, again, up to December 31st of 2020. It's a 5-year contract that began November 3rd of 2017, and it expires November 2nd of 2022. So we've expended about 63% of the contract time to date. The contract has 3 contractors who do work for us. First one being Matthew and Stewart Company. They've, on the contract, been issued around $15.5 million worth of work. You'll see that they're the ones who have typically the highest dollar value because when we put the projects together, they're usually the lowest cost contractor to do the work. The next contractor we have is M&R Construction, and they've been issued approximately $4.9 or $5 million under this contract. And then we have Tomovich and Associates, who's been issued approximately $9.7 million under this contract. The total dollar value that's been issued to date is $30.1 million, and our ceiling on this contract is $43 million. So I go to the bottom here on April 13th is when the cost ceiling was increased to $43 million. So far it's about 70% of the budget expended. We've completed 820 projects under Sewer 6, and then have others in progress currently, totaling 1,197 projects. So this contract is towards the tail end, and we're currently in the process of preparing a board report to come to the board and begin a Sewer 7 contract shortly. So that's where we're at on both Sewer 6 and Sewers 5. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding the report or the contract.
Ryan, one quick threshold question is, and this is certainly reflective of my still being relatively new and there's probably a very obvious answer, but sewers, the 5, 6, coming back with 7. What's the magic of those numbers? What are the actually?
It's the round of contracts. So these started, I believe, the first one, Sewers 1, started, I believe, sometime around 2003. And every time we come out with a new contract, is just the sequence continues. So now we're on the 7th round. The new contract would be the 7th sewers contract that we've had in existence.
And so the sequencing is based on levels of urgency of need for repair, I'm assuming?
No, just when the budget for sewers, for the existing sewers contract runs out, or the duration of the contract expires, then that's when we typically come with the new contract, to establish the new contract.
But I mean, which projects fall within? So presumably the projects within sewers 2 were more urgent than the projects in sewers 5.
No, it's just timing. So this is more of an active contract that we have, and every time sanitation identifies a location that needs a repair, they submit it over to us, and we use the active contract to complete that work. So back in 2005, let's say, when sewers 2 was in existence, there was work they had identified during that time as urgent, and we dealt with it under that contract. Right now, since November 3rd of 2017, any work that they identify as urgent, we are handling it under the Sewer 6 contract.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you. Colleagues, President Pro Tem Davis?
In terms of the workforce here, do we have project labor agreement on this project, Ryan?
No, those were exempted because of the nature of the work and not knowing what scope of work is actually required. We were exempted from those requirements in this contract.
Okay, thank you.
They will be reported though at the end when we accept the contract. BCA will report the utilization that was on the contract.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mike. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good and Ryan, for your presentation. I do not have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Villegas?
I too have no questions. Thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. And finally, Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President Good. I don't have any questions for Mr. Tolles. The only thing I'll add is that, when I first started, it was really helpful when Mr. Tolles gave me a briefing on different delivery methods of our sewer projects, and the difference between sewers versus emergency sewer repair and ESR requests, or how that gets prioritized with LA San, and also like what's just a normal capital improvement project. So that might be very helpful. Mr. Tolles, I think you may have some material that might be helpful to President Good in terms of understanding the different delivery methods. I thought it was super helpful just because we see these in chunks. And some of the emergency projects we don't see at all, depending on how urgent they are. Those are the ones that actually end up coming directly to me for approval just because they're so urgent. So that might be helpful, Mr. Tolles, to do as a follow-up. But thank you for your report.
Yeah, I can send through your office, President Good, some summary information, and if you'd like a briefing and more information, I can also schedule that as well.
If you don't mind, Ryan, I would just go ahead and it can be late February, but we'll figure that. If you don't mind reaching out to Cindy on that, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. So, and I don't have any other questions. This is actually really helpful, although I look forward to a little more dissection just for my own edification. So, all right, thank you very much, Ryan. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, colleagues. Dr. Campos, I believe that clears the decks.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thank you all for a robust meeting. Really appreciate it. And with that, this meeting is officially adjourned. I suspect you could all, like me, use a quick recess. So,
yes.
All right. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you guys. Touch y'all later. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
bad